and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today, William, again. Hey, William, you're here, again.
Let's gather around the campfire and sing a campfire song.
Ooh, that's a good reference to the movies we're talking about today.
Yeah, they did that in one of them.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Like two, at least, so far, right? I would say.
Well, it happened literally in two.
That's true. Yeah, in two. But they had a campfire in the first one, didn't they?
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm misremembering. It doesn't matter. William, we're talking about the Friday the 13th franchise. That's this year's horror marathon for Too Many Movies. And I had to have you along because, well, I just had to. You know, like it's just required by law, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's the Joe Biden even said it himself, like during inauguration. And if that bitch boy Citizen Hal wants to talk about Friday the 13th, he has to bring William with him.
Exactly. I remember that State of the Union address. I was like, hey, weird to bring that up, but okay.
I'm surprised he knows who we are.
Yeah, motherfucker. It doesn't spread the word as much about Too Many Movies.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. Come on the podcast someday, although he might not understand what we're talking about when I bring him on.
But yeah, we're talking about what is probably the most famous slasher series in horror, which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
That's one way to put it, I would say. Yeah.
I'll get to that more in a second because I have a point to make about that.
Oh, please.
Unless you want me to just do it now.
I mean, if you have a point to make it.
Because I guess we're just going to talk about like the series in general for a little bit first before diving into each specific movie.
I think so. Yeah, might as well like kind of get it out of the way.
Yeah, so like Friday the 13th, obviously it's the most known slasher movie because like all the tropes that people use in parody, however, mostly stem from Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, it's like the gateway, which I think is the problem. Because Friday the 13th, okay. A lot of people who haven't seen slasher movies will try to start with Friday the 13th, and that is a very bad idea because a lot of them are going in with the expectations of what the genre is today. And Friday the 13th, at least the first couple, which are the four we're talking about, are not that at all.
No.
That all came later. The first few films are actually very blunt and simple. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are kind of slow, to be fair.
Yes.
I will say, like, I'll say this now that, like, do I think any of these are good movies? Probably not, but they're fun if you have the right expectations.
Yeah, definitely.
The comparison I've been hearing people make lately is that they're the McDonald's of horror, which saw on Twitter. And also, there's just a quote in the book that I have here from Betsy Palmer herself.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredible.
So they're aware. They are aware.
They've been aware from day one.
Yeah, I guess so. So you really can't get mad at that then.
Like, people say, oh, the first movie is just a ripoff of Halloween. Correct. They know. Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of slashers made post Halloween, like in that era of late 70s, early 80s, were very blatantly ripping off Halloween, you know?
And once Friday the 13th came out, then it was ripping off Friday the 13th.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like 2 degrees of Kevin Halloween. Relevant.
That is very relevant considering the movies.
But yeah, what I'm going to say here is, like, if you want to watch slasher movies and haven't seen any, please do not start with Friday the 13th, and please do not start with the first Friday the 13th either.
Yeah, no.
If you're doing that, I would say either start with Elm Street, Child's Play, or Scream.
Yeah.
Those are going to be close to what you actually want out of the genre, and then once you cut your teeth a little, then go back to Friday the 13th, because it's the complete tonal opposite. Mm-hmm. And that's its charm. That's where it's fun.
Sure. I mean, Scream would be a little weird because Scream is actively, like, not parodying, but, like, it's actively subverting those tropes. And, like, if you go in not really understanding the tropes, then it's a little weird. Like, it's like if your first, like, Gundam anime would be Evangelion, which that's what it was for me. And, well, I didn't really get a lot out of Evangelion, unfortunately. So it would be kind of weird to start with the subversion, but I do agree with the whole Child's Play and Elm Street, like starting off with those. Even like the first Halloween, I would say, go into that first. Like, as someone who's seen every single Halloween movie, I would say the first one definitely encapsulates like what a slasher truly is. The best.
It was as far as American slashers go, it's the progenitor.
Yes, absolutely.
I have to say that because, technically speaking, what a lot of the early American slasher films were doing, Italy had already done 20 years earlier.
Italy! Always ahead of the game.
Like, one movie I'm going to name right now, 1971, Mario Bava's A Bay of Blood, which is literally basically Friday the 13th, almost 10 years before Friday the 13th.
Right. But
it's just that, Americans don't know about any movie that hasn't come out in America.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's anime.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, is there anything else you want to say to introduce the series, or do you want to get right into the first movie?
Since you mentioned Halloween, I'll say this now. Michael Myers versus Jason Voorhees. Who do you think's gonna win? Because I know my answer.
Okay. I don't know, because I don't feel like I've gotten a good sense of who Jason is as a character. He's just kind of a big lunk, whereas Michael is also kind of a big lunk. Huh.
But he's also more just a guy.
That's true. You know what? That is true.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, the fight between Jason and Michael, if they were actually in a fight together, it is not a fight.
Yeah, no. Then, you know what? Then Michael would have died long ago, and we wouldn't have gotten Halloween Ends. So you know what? Yeah. I wish we got that crossover.
It is not a fight. Jason stomps Michael. I'm sorry.
You know what?
It is not even close.
Yeah, even though I'm only 4 movies into Friday the 13th, I can agree to that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that now because I know it's going to make people mad. No, it is not even close. It is a stomp. There's, like, because you saw Resurrection. There's a scene where Michael gets kicked in the balls, right?
Yeah. I mean,
he gets kicked in the balls, and then he gets hurt and falls down, right?
That's every movie, yeah. Like,
yeah. So you'll see this later. There's a scene in Freddy versus Jason where Freddy kicks Jason in the balls.
Yeah.
Freddy almost breaks his foot.
Well, see, there's a scene, not to get too ahead, but there's a scene in part 2 where Jason gets hit in the gonads when he's hit down, but, like, I guess this was before, like, he became a supernatural being. Again, we're still in kind of he's just a normal guy. Well, normal guy.
Yeah, they correctly don't properly explain how Jason is still alive in the first half of the movies, which, honestly, good, because they're smart enough to know that there is no way for him to still be alive.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So we're not going to try.
You know what? Yeah, that's a good point. From what I've seen with these Friday the 13th movies thus far, again, I'm only 4 movies in. I am by no means an expert. I mean, this is why I brought you on. You are the expert to help me guide me along. Like, yeah, the movies just haven't done a whole lot of explaining. And I feel like,
for better and for worse.
For better and for worse, yes, absolutely. I will say that. I'm annoyed, but at the same time, can I really get annoyed? I don't think the movies necessarily care yet. Is the vibe I'm getting thus far. The
thing I've noticed on this rewatch is that the continuity is better in some ways than I remembered, but also just as bad as I remember. The continuity in Friday the 13th is actually pretty good, except for the areas where it's not.
Well, good. I'm so glad it's going to get even more clear as the movies go on, and not confusing.
Well, actually, it's really only that confusing, like, right now.
Okay.
Because the others, it's more like, it's either, because from part 4 and up to 6, it follows Tommy Jarvis as the main character. We'll get to him. And then part 7 and part 8 they just take place later. They don't connect to the other movies other than yep, Jason's here.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense then.
It's more just a matter of just make this point right now. It's like part 2 happens.
Yeah.
And then part 3 happens a day later.
Yes.
So now it's Sunday the 15th. And then part 4 happens basically a day later.
Yeah.
and like, there's the one guy who said, I've been looking for my sister ever since she went missing at that massacre that happened. And it's like, my man, that was 3 days ago.
Yeah.
It's been like 3 years in context of real life, but it was like yesterday in context of the movies.
How did you know? Like, how did you figure that out?
How have you been camping out this hard? This much?
And also to bring up, well, we can get into it when we get to part 3, with the whole Chris thing. But that
part.
I think we should just start with part 1. Get right into it if you're ready.
Yeah, start with the one that you shouldn't start with nowadays, but if you're watching the whole series, you kind of have to.
Yeah, exactly. Part 1, 1980, Friday the 13th, the original classic.
It's weird because, like, this is probably the one I've technically seen the most, even though it's not anywhere near my favorite of the series, just because, like, it is the first one. So it's like, I'm going to watch the Friday the 13th movies. I watched the first one.
Yeah. I feel
so, duh.
I feel like on average, when it comes to franchises, the most watched movie will be the original.
Yeah.
Depending on how good the sequels are later on in terms of rewatchability. But yeah, I'm the same way because I technically watched the first Friday the 13th like 3 or 4 years ago, and I remember watching it being like, this is weird. And then I never pursued the sequels. So watching it again with the context that I know now, I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. So I'm just going to say it. I kind of like this movie. I don't think it's amazing. I think it is very standard when it comes to not even just slasher movies, but horror movies in general. But I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. It's just fine. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
you really have to look at it in the context of when it was made.
Exactly.
And a matter of the whole, because this is going to come up in the future a lot. Our good old friends, the MPA. You could not get away with the shit you can do today at all back then.
Nope.
In fact, I'm going to say now, I feel like if the first Friday the 13th came out today exactly the same for the first time, it would get PG-13.
You know what? I think so. Yeah. In many ways, you're right. Like, in many ways, we've kind of gotten a little more liberal with what we want to show in movies. Yeah.
I think people just started. I just think some people stopped being pussies where it mattered.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. Because, again, when you compare Friday the 13th with, like, Faust, I mean, it's pretty night and day. Like, this. You know what's funny is I'm often reminded of that scene in the first Treehouse of Horror, the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, like the very first one from like the early 90s. And like it's after the segment when Lisa tells Bart the Raven, which they just recreated the Raven, and Bart's like, Lisa, that wasn't scary, and she's like, yeah, but it was written like over 100 years ago. Like, people, I guess, were easier to scare back then. And Bart makes it a point to say, oh yeah, kind of like the first Friday the 13th. It's pretty tame by today's standards. It's just like that was 10 years after the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and now we're over 40 years removed.
Exactly. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is very different. You have to look at this with the context of the time.
Yeah. And keep in mind, there's like 2 cuts in the movie, the theatrical cut and the unrated cut, which, granted, whichever version you watch, it barely matters because all the unrated cut adds in was like literal seconds for the kills, which goes into point there. They were so strict back then that they had to just shave off seconds to not get an X rating. And this is not going to be the first time we hear this. If I remember correctly, Part 7 specifically got fucking butchered by the MPA.
Wow. We can't handle the red paint. Our tiny little minds can't handle it, I guess.
There's also the context of the matter of the budget for the movie at the time.
True.
You know what the budget was, right?
I don't, actually.
The budget for the first Friday the 13th, and this is in 1979 money because that's when the movie was filmed. $550,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It did not even cost $1 million. It was $550,000.
Not to be a dick, but how much did The Flash cost this year? Like,
you want to know why they made eight of these movies in the 80s? because it ended up grossing the book here. I have a copy of Crystal Lake Memories, The Complete History of Friday the 13th. There's also a documentary of the same name. The book has like a lot of interviews with a lot of people involved with the series. Towards the back, they actually have like a section that actually lists all the how much the movie's made at the box office and everything.
Oh, I'm very curious to hear this.
Production budget $550,000. Shooting locations: Blairstown, New Jersey, and Hope, New Jersey. Principal shooting days September 4th to October 3rd, 1979. U.S. box office 39,754,601.
Wow.
Opening weekend was 5,816,321. It had 14.6% of the box office and was ranked 1.
Wow. So, yeah, 8 sequels seems pretty seems to it makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
And remember, that was 1980s money.
Yeah, like, oh, brother. That's incredible, actually, that it was able to make that much.
And they also specify, we have to remember, these are R-rated movies, so the audience was smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, yeah, no. Technically, yeah. Theoretically, it should be smaller because, yeah, you can only go if you're 17 and above. Now, I mean,
sneaking in, but well, if they're sneaking in, they won't be paying for the tickets.
Right, that's true too. It wouldn't count. But
I mean, I guess technically, you can. People younger than 17 can get into an R-rated movie if they're with an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on whether, parents would have been okay with that back in the day. I feel like parents nowadays would be...
They would not have been okay with that at all back then. You know that for a fact.
Yeah, I know.
You know about what Siskel and Ebert did.
I was thinking about it as I was saying it. I'm like, no, probably not.
Yeah, let's just get into that right now. Critics fucking despise this series.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
Today it might fare slightly better just because people aren't as big of prudes about it.
Sure.
But back then, no, none of these movies got positive reception at all from any critics.
No,
unless
I can't
you're
imagine.
Joe Bob or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like I again, as I'm watching through these movies, I don't think they're great, but I understand what they are, so I'm judging them for what they are. And I can't really say they're the worst, but I can absolutely agree. Or I can understand if somebody were to watch this through a critical eye and just pick up on all these little things that don't make sense about the movie and just make it annoying. It's this one I feel like gets away with it a little more because it feels like a first movie. It's not concerned with making sense around the world that it inhabits. It's just concerned with telling a story or telling a story where teenagers get hacked to death by a killer. As simple as that sounds, that's what the movie is focused on. And I feel like that's why it's kind of the most solid thus far, I would say, that I've seen.
But yeah, they did not expect to get any sequels at all at this point. They were just we can make the movie. You want to know the origins of how they came up with the idea for the movie?
Please tell.
Okay, so basically, Sean S. Cunningham, working with his crew, they were working on a movie called, what was it? The Here Come the Tigers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was a ripoff of the Bad News Bears.
Okay.
They were working on that because they kept hearing from other people in the business saying, what America really wants to watch right now is a good G-rated movie. Which, okay, 78, you understand that. That makes sense.
Sure.
That ended up not being true because in 1978, apparently what people actually wanted to watch was Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So after all that, and they were working on their next movie, Sean was like, damn, what kind of movie could I make that would be a hit? Thinking back to Halloween, it's I bet if I had a movie called something like Friday the 13th, guy could sell that. That'd make so much. So he then took out a newspaper ad saying, Friday the 13th, coming later this year. They did not have a script or anything yet, but he took out that ad, and it fucking worked.
That's so funny. That is so funny.
Yeah, there is no planning for a lot of the early parts of this franchise. It is just, okay, well, we got the money, go.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you can definitely tell that with the movie. Like, there is a baseline story, but the movie's not concerned with the story. It's concerned with the kills.
It's less of a story and more of just a setup.
Yes.
Okay, we are fixing up this camp. We are going to go there so we can be counselors. Oh, hi. What are you doing with that knife?
Yeah, exactly. And you have like interspersed like little moments towards the beginning where you have characters like walking into town and being like, "Hey, how far is Camp Crystal Lake?" And all the people are just like, "You don't mean Camp Crystal Lake?" And it's just like, "Whoa, that place is haunted." Whoa, it's to like kind of get you interested, get you like, "Oh, what's with this place? What's the deal?" You know, like
I'm actually surprised I didn't remember them actually setting up Jason that early in the truck driving scene.
Yeah, which, by the way, the truck driver is played by Rex Everhart, the voice of Maurice, crazy old Maurice from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
Nice.
I know.
But yeah, it's like I think they actually do a pretty good job setting up Crystal Lake in the beginning of here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Ralph is in the movie less than I remember.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised at that too. I'm just like, oh, the town crazy. Oh, he's not in the movie anymore. Okay.
It's like, he kind of just became a trope in like for slashers, but like he really isn't that much of a thing in these movies.
Yeah.
It's really not that much of a trope. Which,
Yeah.
to get back to what I was kind of going earlier with things being known later, I feel like because Friday the 13th is the face of it, a lot of the tropes from the genre that it didn't even make, it gets put on.
Right.
Just because of association. Because, like, in the first couple movies here, like, people always say, oh, all those movies are is sex and violence. There really isn't that much sex in the first couple movies.
No, there's definitely people fucking, but, like, that's not really the focus.
You don't see it. It just kind of, it's implied that it happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, it's debatable if they're even teenagers in the first couple movies, because like some of them are talking about like their major in tuition. It's like, no, these are college kids.
Yeah, I mean,
these are adults.
It's always
like,
hard to tell.
In the second movie second movie specifically, they go to a bar.
Yeah.
They are objectively 21 and up.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always kind of hard to tell because Hollywood loves casting like older people as teenagers. So like, I kind of just assumed like late teens, early 20s. It's kind of the same thing, really.
Like, how old is Mr. Christie supposed to be?
How
old is Paul in the second movie?
Ooh,
I can't tell.
Point. Yeah,
there's also
yeah,
there's like small moments like okay, in the second we know for a fact it's true, but like in the first movie, there's like that moment that Mr. Christie has with Alice where it's implied that they like each other. It's like, how old are these characters?
Good point.
And like in the second movie, we see Alice in her house. She owns a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, no, this is an adult.
Yeah, it's an adult. Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
And there's always like the trope of, oh, the final girl is always the virgin and the nice one. And the first couple are not really. Like, Alice was like, when we get to Strip Monopoly, Alice was about to start doing it, but then they got cut off by the storm.
Yeah.
And Ginny in the second movie, absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like, I actually didn't know that was a thing. Was that like the virgin like lives by the end, or is like the final girl? I didn't know that was a trope.
Yeah, it's like I feel like a lot of the tropes are things that just kind of happen eventually through the series. Now, once we get to like part 4, like, okay, yeah, these definitely look like younger. These are teenagers, yes,
sure.
But like in the first like 1 through 3. They're adults as far as I can tell.
Yeah, very young adults, but adults nonetheless.
Still,
yeah, no, absolutely.
So it's like that goes to that point of it. Like Friday the 13th is kind of just a victim of its own success, is the way I put it.
Yeah,
where like it's the most successful, it's the face of the franchise, great, but that also means that like it's what people think it is, it really isn't, and what it isn't, people think it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, to put it in a weird way, but no, you're absolutely right. Like that's the thing. Is like I said, when I first watched this years ago, I had these expectations. I'm just like, oh, there's this Jason killer. He wears a hockey mask. That doesn't happen in this movie, actually. Not to spoil it, but
I'm surprised that there are still people who aren't aware of that. Like, I assume that was like a Snape kills Dumbledore type thing by this point.
I mean, at this point, it probably is. But yeah, no, because I didn't really understand Friday the 13th when I first watched it, and the twist is that, oh, it's actually Pam killing these kids. Like, I was genuinely kind of shocked at that moment. And I think that's really interesting because like it's a twist when the movie first came out, because you're just like, oh, who's this killer that is killing all these people? And then it's like, oh, it was me. I was the killer. This character who was just introduced the scene she was introduced in.
Played by a TV celebrity, Betsy Palmer. I don't think people today have much of a baseline for her, but I do believe she was much more well known back then.
She probably was, yeah. I don't know what other things she was in, but
I think she was mostly known for TV work.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, but it's also a twist looking back, because again, there's this whole franchise where you have this hockey masked killer as this iconic image that encapsulates the entirety of the franchise. So I think, oh, that's going to be the killer. Nope, it's his mom who's killing everybody. So
yeah,
it's just such an interesting twist looking back.
When they say Jason died and drowned in the lake when he was a child, what they meant was Jason drowned in the lake and died.
Yeah, exactly. Like he didn't come back.
Jason is still important in the first movie.
Yes.
Because he's the catalyst for all of this happening in the first place.
Yes.
But that's all it was meant to be at first.
Was a catalyst, yes.
Yes.
But then at the end, you have Jason coming up from the river and kind of pulling what's her name into the water. Alice, yeah.
Yeah.
That is Alice, right? That's not Alice.
I believe so.
Alice isn't the cook?
I'm pretty sure it's Alice.
Okay.
Does Adrian King say Alice in this part of the book I'm looking at?
No. The cook was Annie. Never mind. Yeah, Adrian King is Alice. Yes.
Yeah. Annie was the girl at the beginning of the movie that got the first death, right?
She is, the first death technically.
Yeah.
She's
Alice
the cook.
is the final girl.
Yeah. Alice is the final girl. Okay, we cleared it up.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And that final scene though, like that's probably the most iconic part of the movie. I would say probably objectively.
Yeah.
And like that is probably like the best scare in the thing, because like nowadays you have fake outs all the time like that, but back then that fucking worked.
Yeah, because you literally could not expect it.
And it's implied that it may or may not have been a dream. It's ambiguous.
Well, that's the strange thing. And I feel like the next few movies kind of pull the same thing, where they try to have like a semi-dream sequence.
They don't try. They literally just do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's such a weird trope that these early movies have. Is this a thing that continues later on in the franchise? Where like
not that I remember.
Okay, yeah, it's just such a
2009 has one, but that's because it's technically a reboot.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is like it's just such a weird thing to keep coming back with, because it's always
especially what they do in the third one.
Oh, we'll get to the third one. That's probably
because that one has no reason to be there.
That one just absolutely just boggles the mind. But we'll get to that. This one I can see it making sense, because it generally does make you question, like, oh, was it real? Was it not real? Like you're genuinely questioning it, and I feel like it's kind of a neat way to end the movie, because like it's just such a weird situation she's in, and then like she just has no idea, like, oh, did it actually happen? Like, did Jason actually come back from the dead in that moment to reap revenge on his dead mother? Like, I don't know. We will never get answers for that, except we do, because then they made Friday the 13th Part 2. But if we look at this movie in a vacuum, it's an interesting way to end the movie, I would say.
It is effective. In fact, I'd have an anecdote. Back when I was a scared little kid who didn't want anything to do with horror movies, my sisters were watching this one day, and like I walked in the movie at the very end. I saw her on the boat. It's like, okay, the movie's ending. It's all good. Now I'm fine now. And then Jason pops up.
Yeah.
It fucking worked on me.
Yeah. Isn't it weird to think back, like, we used to just not care for horror? Like, we were genuine pussies back in the day, and now here we are.
Because we were children.
No, that's a good point. But still, like, the kinds of movies I see nowadays, like, I could not have handled at 10 years old, let me tell you.
Also, a fun fact about Jason in the first movie, and I guess just carrying throughout with the way he looks, that was never actually in the script. That's just kind of what Tom Savini just did with the makeup.
Oh, Tommy boy.
Yeah, he just kind of designed the rationale was like, if Jason like Because like it's already sad when a just a kid drowns in general.
Yeah.
But it's like it will make it even more sympathetic and to push Pamela over the edge by making him slightly deformed.
Yeah.
Because now you feel even worse for him.
Yeah, because yeah,
and
especially.
now Pamela is even more justified.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also nice. It also is like pretty effective prosthetic. Like I'm looking at the picture. Yeah, here it's kind of funny looking.
Yeah,
but that's also kind of the point.
It is kind of the
like,
point.
It's a good prosthetic. It's probably the best prosthetic in the movie.
I think so. There's some prosthetics in the movie that are a little obvious. Like when let's talk about the Kevin Bacon kill. Kevin.
I know what you're talking about because like in the unrated cut, one of the seconds they add was you see like a front shot of it, and there it's much more obvious that it's prosthetic.
Yeah, so
it cuts off in the theatrical cut right before then, which actually kind of makes it better.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so Kevin Bacon's in this movie, which is really funny to think about. But like
after the big slump he had after Animal House, where he wasn't really doing much, he did this.
Yeah,
and then the rest is history.
But yeah, so like Jason kills him by like he's like so like Kevin Bacon's lying down in bed, and Jason like stabs him with like an arrow or something like that. Pamela, thank you. Freudian slip right already. But yeah, Pam stabs like an arrow through his neck, and the neck is a slightly different skin color than Kevin Bacon's face, so you're just like, oh, that's obviously an effect. But you know what? I'm still impressed by how they set that up and how to make it look a little convincing. So like, I still appreciate the effects. I mean, because it's Tom fucking Savini, like it's still amazing effects no matter what. Like
this even was like in between in between Dawn of the Dead and like his other later work he's more known for.
Right.
And like again, the budget was much smaller than usual, so you did the best you could.
I think so. I like how it looks, even if it is cheesy looking. I like that cheesy look to it.
It's also probably the most iconic kill from the movie besides Pamela getting her head cut off.
Yeah, I think so. I can definitely agree to that.
I actually do have a quote here from Kevin Bacon, which is kind of rare. Kevin Bacon doesn't usually come back for these things very often or talk about Friday the 13th, but he did come back for this book, so that's nice.
Yeah.
I got a quote from him here. Whatever steps forward I have taken, I was always able to take a few back and sabotage it. I've been through so many ups and downs, but I feel pretty good from a career standpoint. I was never the fresh new face, and I'm happy about that. Friday the 13th, I think that success gave me the confidence I needed at that time. After the lull following Animal House, and it was a great conversation piece. For a while, I was known as the guy that got it with an arrow through the neck making love to a girl in a camp bunk.
What an association.
Also, one of the first scenes you see Kevin Bacon in, it's the scene where they're all on the lake on that platform after swimming, and like after the one girl fakes drowning or whatever, the one guy fakes drowning or whatever, there's that pan up shot to the characters. If you look closely, you will notice that Kevin Bacon has a fucking boner.
I did not notice it, unfortunately, this time, but I'll be on the lookout for it next time I watch.
I also have a quote back here about Kevin Bacon. It's from Ron Carroll, who played Sergeant Tierney in the movie. What's the greatest thing about being in Friday the 13th? I got to be a first degree of Kevin Bacon.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's the guy who. So that's the guy who is he the one who calls Ned like goat cheese? Or I wrote down like somebody insulted somebody by calling them goat cheese, and I'm like, what kind of an insult is that? Was that the?
I do not remember that.
Yeah. Well, I also wrote down like the officer's line where he says, "We ain't gonna stand for weirdness out here," and I was just like, what a funny line to say. Like, I don't know, just this cop is just so funny to me. He's just such a weirdo.
Or then he like looks at Kevin Bacon or the other guy and just says, "You smoking weed?"
Yeah.
And just gives like all the fucking names for weed.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? It's like, there's no weirdness around here. 5 minutes later, you guys want to play Strip Monopoly?
A game that makes absolutely no sense. Yeah.
Which is like, they just had to have come up with that on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like the movie at that point, like it's much relatively grounded. There's not as many weird moments as the other later movies. But like then they hit you with Strip Monopoly.
Yeah, you're just like, what the fuck? I also want to mention, so to kind of add on to the whole twist aspect that we don't find out it's Pam until later on, the fact that every time a character's talking to them from the first person perspective from the camera, I love how they never mention her by name. They don't even say her pronouns. So then it's like a genuine shock when like, oh, it could have been anybody. It's just like, oh, it's you, when Mr. Christie like sees her. But he doesn't say like, oh, it's you, Pam. He's just like, oh, it's you. It's just like, oh, it really adds suspense, but it's a little contrived because you're just like, what, you're not going to say this person who you know by name? Like, it's just such a weird thing, but I understand why they did that. It's so then it genuinely comes as a surprise, like, oh, it was actually this old lady that was killing everybody.
Like a sweet old America's darling Betsy Palmer shows up, like, okay, she's gonna take her away, everything's gonna be just fine and dandy.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you talking about this boy who drowned?
Yeah.
Oh, today is his birthday? Oh, the guy that drowned was your son? Why are you so mad? Fuck!
Wait a minute. For some reason, I wrote down as a note in this, why does Pamela Voorhees look like Milton Berle in drag? I realized, I guess she does kind of look like Milton Berle, but like as a woman. I don't know why I thought to write that down, but I just did.
How when he sees an old person for the first time?
Yeah, it looks like Milton Berle.
Guy who's only seen one old guy before. Yo, I'm getting real Milton Berle energy from this.
Oh, Milton, you classic guy. Yeah, is there anything else we want to say about this first Friday the 13th movie before we get into this Blu-ray?
I mean, is there anything to talk about with the other cast members?
Oh,
because like,
thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Oh, did you have a point to bring up? Because I was just going to talk about like what happened afterwards with their careers. Because like this movie, it's kind of weird because this movie was a big hit.
Yeah.
So you would assume that like, oh, they probably went on to do pretty good, had a pretty good after all, but not really.
No, it was just Kevin Bacon.
A lot of the people in the industry and stuff kind of just disapproved of it. Like, why would you do that to yourself? Yeah. Like, well, damn, they were just trying to get experience, my man. Like,
yeah,
and some of them did have a good stuff later. Like, some of them did go into like theater instead, which like, you know, that's still good. They still got to act.
Right, exactly.
But like, I don't know how many people had a big break afterwards besides Kevin Bacon, obviously.
Yeah, no, Kevin Bacon is like the only outlier here. He's like genuinely the guy who had like the best career out of all these in terms of Hollywood careers. But no, I'm glad you reminded me because I made this a point to tell you. The guy who plays Bill is Bing Crosby's son, funnily enough, which is really
hilarious.
Random. Yeah, it's so random. I did a little research. I'm hopefully I'm getting it right that it is his actual son. But like, yeah, he's like this guy who acted in a couple of movies and now he's like an investment banker. Like he just didn't want to do acting, I guess. But he wanted to do a little bit of show business like his father, but not really. I think
they probably get residuals from his other stuff anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's the point even? But yeah, no, I just think that's the funniest thing ever.
So he's like does like investment stuff or whatever. Yeah, he probably still has good money.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the point I wanted to bring up with the cast.
And if you want to say like a bad note, Adrienne King, who played Alice. Unfortunately, after the movie, she kind of had a stalker going around for a while.
Oh.
Which, never do that.
No, never do. That's weird and creepy, and you never
Eventually,
look
they
good.
got arrested, thank God, but
good.
Like, yikes.
Yeah, like, yeesh. I can't even get into the headspace of thinking, like, rationally on that, like being like, yes, I'll stalk them and they'll certainly love me. It's like,
how did you find them?
Yeah, that's true. Like, how did they find them without the internet? That's that it's not to give them any credit, but that's impressive, but also fuck you. Like, jeez.
Yeah, what's another point we haven't actually brought up yet is that this was a small, low-budget movie just made by a couple of guys. It's also owned by Paramount.
That's true.
These are the first 8 movies are Paramount movies, which is like a real studio.
Yeah, they make real movies like Indiana Jones and Sonic. So like,
So it's just kind of weird that this actually got to be distributed by a big name company.
right.
There's also always been like the thing where like people were wondering, and it's all here say he said, she said, conflicting reports about whether or not Paramount actually liked the fact that they owned the series or if they were embarrassed by it. And it's always conflicting, but it's like they were bankrolling this stuff.
Right. Like,
And they were making money off of it. They were getting diminishing returns as it went on, yes, but they were making money on it.
right, exactly. So maybe you could argue, like, maybe I'm sure some higher ups like probably didn't like it because they were like prudes about it, but at the same time, money's more important to them, so they're like, we'll keep it going because it's making us money. So
It's a matter of, do we really want to keep doing this? Oh, wait, how much did that one make? 3 times its budget. All right, bankroll the next one.
keep them coming.
But the last one was called The Final Chapter. Bankroll the next one.
Too bad.
What's that? You're trying to film in New York? Oh, you need a lot of money for that. Sell the rights to New Line.
Oh, it makes too much sense now when you put it that way.
You know, and like, I'll mention this again in the next video when we actually talk about that movie. But yeah, literally the only real reason they sold the rights to New Line was just so that Freddy versus Jason could happen at all. It was just for the crossover to be possible.
I mean, you know what? That still makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see it working out that way.
You know, it's also funny because Last House on the Left, a movie from the 70s, a 70s horror movie, was done by both Wes Craven and Sean S. Cunningham. Sean S. Cunningham would go on to create Friday the 13th. Wes Craven would go on to make Nightmare on Elm Street.
Wow, look at that. What a crossover.
What an early... Well, I mean, it kind of predicted what happened eventually. Mind you, by the time that movie happened, neither were involved with the franchise anymore.
Right, exactly.
Well, Sean tries to be nowadays after the fact.
Right.
But, you know, there's not... The obvious reason there is, you know, money.
Money. Exactly. Money. No, I definitely get that. Definitely get that. So, this Friday the 13th Blu-ray I have is...
we both have the Shout Factory box set.
We do, and it's really cool because it's a reversible cover. So I actually flipped it. So instead of the classic like body outline with the axe holding, like, and you see like you have the
4-in-1 where it's like the axe in the bed.
The axe in the bed. I think that's a really striking image. I really like that image of like the bloody axe in the bed. I think it's really cool.
I switched it to that one too. I don't remember which all ones I've switched. I think I switched the third one to the one where he's like coming out of the window with the axe, which is what I also have in Letterboxd.
Yeah, it's just a really cool image. And it's a really cool looking movie. The 4K scan of the original camera negative. That's what it is. It looks really good. And I did watch the unrated version. I'm glad it comes with the theatrical version. Like, I like having the choice. So
yeah. There's not much of a difference between the two, as we've mentioned, but like it's good that they gave us the option.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for the record, the Shout Factory did 4K scans of, I believe, the first 4 movies, and then 2K scans of the rest. If you buy Paramount would later, like, they have that 8-movie budget box that they always keep making. The scans are up to date on that, so they are the Shout Factory scans. They won't have all the bonus features, but they will have those scans.
That's cool.
And I believe up to part 1, part 1 definitely has a 4K release at this point. I don't know if any of those got an actual 4K discs yet.
Okay.
But part 1 does have a actual 4K release now.
Nice. It's getting there. Oh, I'm just looking at this in the special features. This Blu-ray has radio spots. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't have the box set in front of me right now because it's kind of at the bottom of a pile on my shelf with a bunch of candles in front of it. So spoiler, I kind of just watched it on HBO Max.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Because I was too lazy to take the 2 minutes to get it off the shelf. But yeah, like the box set, like each movie has bonus features, and then there's also an extra bonus disc at the very end just for everything else that didn't fit.
Yes.
I think that disc is mostly archival features.
Yeah, when we get to it, I'll be sure to check it out.
But yeah, Shout Factory, Scream Factory, they always try to do their best with bonus features. They'll also always tell you if a feature is new or old. So yeah, obviously this was like a big deal when it came out too. I actually pre-ordered it and I pre-ordered it from Shout themselves when it first came out, so I also got like the 2 big posters that came with it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, no, this version that I have, well, I see this all the time at Bull Moose, but I didn't get this one that I own at Bull Moose. I actually got it at your local FYE.
Yeah, when you were over back in February. I
Exactly.
was there.
Yeah.
You specifically bought it specifically to do the podcast in October.
And here we are. Full circle, baby. Full circle. Or oval. I don't know. Some spherical shape, I'm sure.
I'm looking at like a blurb in the book right here talking about the Jason jumping out.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Friday the 13th, famous chair jumper, took 3 arduous filming attempts to perfect. It also saw a last-minute casting change in the role of young Jason. He was originally meant to be played by my 11-year-old son Noel, says Sean Cunningham. He thought it'd be fun, but when his mother found out, she was having no part of it. Forget about missing school. There was damn near ice on the lake because they filmed this thing in September and October, which you can actually tell in that scene because if you look at the background, you can see that some of the trees are going orange.
Yeah.
And the reason they had to film it at that point was because the first movie is filmed at an actual Boy Scout camp, Camp Nobi Bosco in New Jersey.
So
and
nobody was there anymore.
And the camp is still functioning to this day, and they actually do Friday the 13th tours every Friday the 13th, where like they'll say, "Here's where this scene was," and just do a big tour of it. And I think they usually end with showing the movie, and they have like merch for it too. A really cool thing to do that I think is that they sell bottled lake water to say, "Here is actual crystal lake water in a bottle," and they have like a fun label on saying Angry Mother Bottling Company, sourced from the lake where the Friday the 13th legend began. And like they only filled the bottles on Friday the 13th.
Okay. That's interesting, but okay. I mean, hey, you gotta sell.
I mean, hey, it's technically a screen use prop.
No, that's very true. No, but they're gonna run out of water someday.
It rains.
That's true. That's true.
I want one. I'm gonna get one eventually.
Yeah, and drink it.
Yeah. No, there was damn near ice on the lake, and he would have to get in, stay under the water. So he wound up hiring Ari Lehman, who had been in Manny's There was the movie that he was working beforehand, one of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Much to the disappointment of the younger Cunningham. I went through a lot of therapy after that, jokes Noel. I think about it now, and man, I could have been Jason. I would have gotten on the cover of Fangoria. Which, in the third movie, when you see them reading that one magazine, that's the first issue of Fangoria.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. You can tell because it has the 25 Years of Godzilla article, and the 25th anniversary of Godzilla was 1979, not 1982.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But yeah, Jason in the first movie is played by a man named Ari Lehman. And that's that anecdote.
And that's that anecdote.
So if you're ever in, I think, North Jersey around Friday the 13th, try to see if you can go to the Crystal Lake Tour at Camp Nobi Bosco and give them money.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
They also sell the merch online.
Yeah, you could do that too.
But yeah, I think that's everything for the first movie, at least when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, it made a lot of money.
A lot.
It was says here, not only ranked as the top-grossing horror film of the year, it represented the new face of the genre itself. Then cutting-edge special effects. Nice. By the benefit of the mass marketing campaign afforded it by Paramount Pictures. I guess Paramount actually did market it really well too. Like, because it does have that one really cool trailer where it's like they count up to 13, showing a bunch of different scares.
That's cool.
And like they do that again for the second movie, where the tagline is "the body count continues," so it goes off from that.
Right.
But yeah, the first movie came out, and it kind of sort of redefined the genre. Halloween set it up, but Friday the 13th is what cemented the genre, at least for the first part of the 80s.
I think, yeah, that the timeline definitely lines up with that.
I think then 1984 was the next shift, because that was when part 4 for Friday the 13th came out, but also another movie by the name of Nightmare on Elm Street came out that year, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the decade.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so the movie made a shitload of money. So Paramount said, well, maybe not Paramount, but like people were on, it was like obvious, well, we got to make another one, right?
Yeah.
Let me see. Sean Cunningham was just hoping that would make enough of a profit to make another movie, and now he had gotten that, and then he went on to not direct the movie. This movie and the next one are directed by Steve Miner, who was on staff in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was with Cunningham's crew, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Cunningham did not come back. He would not come back to actually direct the movie again until Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, really? I actually didn't know. I haven't been paying attention to the later movies, but yeah, no, it's interesting actually.
It's that was actually one of the taglines with the movie. The creator of the first comes to bring you the last.
Okay.
There were then 3 more movies after that. And they fucking knew that there were going to be more because of the end credits tag for that movie. You'll know it when you'll see it.
We'll get there when we'll get there. Not
it's
yet,
also
Minion,
funny
not yet.
It's also funny because the 2 movies that he directed were the ones where Jason is not, well, okay, Jason is the killer in Jason Goes to Hell. But we'll get there.
I can't wait to see what this but means.
That was the first New Line film. I'll put it to you that way.
Right, exactly. Okay, cool. But yeah,
that was also when the series names kind of just look being named off of Jason instead of Friday the 13th.
Right, so it didn't matter like for Friday the 13th at that point.
It was like what Child's Play was doing later on, where like they stopped calling them Child's Play and started just calling them Chucky.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Because it was Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, Friday the First. Wait a minute.
But yeah, part 2. We got to talk about part 2. This one is actually pretty good. I think I like this a hair more than the first one. Mostly, I'm going to be honest, because there's some really funny moments in this movie that like just I think are just top-notch comedy to me personally. But
I'll say right now that so far in the list I have this one at the top.
Yeah, like
the 4.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fun sequel. It is very samey because it's like, oh, we have more camp counselors, but they also just die the same way. It's like, okay, yeah, it's just the same thing, but like, whatever. Like, I can get over that. Like, I'm not expecting peak like script writing with these movies. Like, if it's going to be the same thing every time, at least make it entertaining, and I feel like this movie does that just fine. Like, I think it knows what it is, and I respect it for that.
And I think it does do a little better than the first one too, because like, one is actually is a different campground. That's kind of the thing that gets a little overlooked for the first couple. Only the first one actually takes place at Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, that is
because the second movie is at the second one's at Packanack Lodge. The third movie is at Higgins Haven. The fourth movie is at a house.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I'm assuming later on, like, it doesn't matter.
It's just that Crystal Lake is fucking massive.
Right? Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, that only does matter though for these first 4 because it is Camp Crystal Lake for the rest of them. Well, not the fifth one, but from 6 on, it is Crystal Lake.
Okay.
But it's easy to forget that in the first couple, Crystal Lake was only the first movie.
Yeah. No,
it's just that the lake itself is fucking massive.
I guess so, yeah, because people are just like, oh, why are you bringing these camp counselors near Crystal Lake? It's like, well, we're not on Crystal Lake, so nothing can happen to us. Oh, oops, Jason's back, I guess.
Yeah, we're in the campground next to Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah, but Jason still comes to kill us, which, okay, yeah, Jason's now the killer. So now it's just, so that's what's really interesting about the second one is like, so Pam is dead, obviously, but now Jason is also back, which is weird. Because, again, he was just kind of a plot device in the first one. Now he's the actual killer. And, like, okay, I don't know if it really explains well. I think you've, like, said before, like, it gets explained later on, which...
Badly.
Well, I don't expect it to be explained good. I can already tell. But you know what? At the very least, Jason in this movie is pretty funny because he's just kind of a klutz. Who has a bag over his head. That's that's interesting. So he still has not gotten his iconic hockey mask yet, which we'll talk about that when we get to the third one. But so he just has a bag over his head with one eye hole cut out. And it's pretty goofy, like, just looking at
yeah.
it.
That also is another element they took from another movie, because that is just what the killers in the movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown wear.
Okay.
So it's just, again, it's them ripping off a different movie again.
It's really funny how, like, we associate Friday the 13th as, like, this like, the face of slasher horror, when, like, it's kind of taking from every other slasher horror made at the time, but we still associate it as the one that others take from. Like, that's just so fascinating to me. It's this weird slasher incest going on, I guess.
Yeah, and like, I'm looking at the book to see like what they said about Jason coming back, because Jason becoming the killer is also part of the reason why Sean didn't come back to direct, and why Tom Savini didn't want to do the makeup effects for it, because well, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Tom Savini, you have a quote here. Jason doesn't exist, okay? Jason died in the first movie. For Jason to be around today means what? He survived by living off of crawfish on the side of the lake for 35 years? Nobody saw this kid walking around and growing up. It asks you to accept a lot. That was part of my concern about part 2 when they offered it to me. I got the script and he was Jason running around. I said, what do you mean Jason's running around? So I turned down part 2 and did The Burning instead, which had sort of a Friday the 13th premise anyway. And
I just think that's so funny that these guys are just like, this does not make sense. I expected more continuity or less continuity.
Well, part 1 was more grounded, to be fair.
Yeah, it was, but it's just like, dude, you're making a sequel to a horror movie. It's like, I don't know. You know what? It's me looking back with hindsight and knowing that these movies get goofy. So that's where I'm just like, oh, you were expecting something more, but like, I get it. At the time, maybe you could just be like, yeah, you don't do this. But they did it anyway. And look where that ended up.
It ended up reshaping the entire face of the genre.
Whoopsie.
But yeah, it's like he wears a sack in universe because it's just a thing he found. Because like you see a shack in the middle of the woods, and like yeah, that looks like a fucking shack that you got put together in the middle of the woods by a bunch of garbage.
Yeah, it's like literally pieces of other houses and sheds that you just like make up this like shack. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that looks like it was built by a kid that drowned but didn't drown.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just this dude living out in the woods, which. Yeah, how big is Crystal Lake that nobody has ever found this like shack up until this movie? Like that again.
Well, I mean, they probably did. It's just that when they found it, Jason was there and he killed them.
That's a good point. Yeah. So then they couldn't tell anybody, could they?
Yeah. Kind of can't tell someone when you're dead.
No, you can't do that. But yeah, no, I think this movie, it is a little slower at times, and like this is the movie where like I started to realize that these movies definitely know what they are. When like one thing I've realized was like there's like a scene where Sandra and Jeff are talking to each other, and they're just like, and Sandra's just like, we have to go see Camp Crystal Lake. Come on, Jeff. And the actress just doesn't seem into it. She's just like, we have to go to Camp Crystal Lake. I want to see Jason. I want to see this weird lake place where people got killed. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. The movie doesn't care how the actors deliver their lines, because the movie just wants these actors to get to scenes where they get killed. You know what I'm trying to say? Like that's where I'm just like, okay, I see. The movie doesn't care. So like, why should I comment on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, at this point it was pure exploitation.
Pure exploitation. Oh god, speaking of pure exploitation.
How about the shot where Scott slingshots the girl's ass?
Exactly. Yeah, so that's only part of the scene. Like there's still that 30-second buildup of the camera just looking at the girl's ass in the short shorts. By the way, the shortiest short shorts I've ever seen in any movie comes in this movie. Like just so many short shorts in this movie, even on the guys. Like it's just a short movie. Like it's insane the amount of short shorts in this movie.
It's also a short movie because it's only an hour and a half.
Yeah, that too, if even. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Exploitative. Like again, and that same actress, I think it's Rebecca. I don't want to get this wrong. I want to be correct when talking about the different characters. Terry. Terry is the one in the very short shorts. There's a scene later on in the movie where she just skinny dips. Why?
Cause
boobs. That's the reason. They
don't really even focus on her doing it either. She just kind of does it to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like,
and then just so that she can have the scene where her clothes get stolen by Scott later.
Yeah.
Which I was going to make a point of saying that, like, I think generally I like the characters in this movie more than the first movie, except for Scott. Fuck Scott.
Yeah. Who the fuck is this creep? Like, he's just, even just by the first frame of him when he goes on screen, I'm like, that dude's a pervert. And he does nothing to differentiate from that stereotype. He is just straight up a perv. he just has this face to him that I'm just like, why would anybody find you charming? Like, I don't get it. It's like, oh
yeah, he kind of deserved it.
He hits on a dog. Like, he hits on a dog. That's all I can say.
Damn, I'm striking out all over the place.
Yeah. That's a funny one.
He's the only character that doesn't actually get to pair off with anybody. Even the guy in the wheelchair managed to pull someone.
Yeah, well, that's because Vicky was weirdly horny for Mark. It was kind of strange.
To be fair, though, Mark is kind of a Chad.
Yeah. Oh, dude, the fucking arms. I get why he has those arms. It's because he doesn't have no legs.
Well, I mean, not even jokingly. I guess, yeah, you're in a wheelchair. You're using your arms to move everywhere. I guess you would be kind of ripped.
Yeah, I like that little detail. How he's always beating people at arm wrestling, and the movie never really has a character go like, oh, you're good at arm wrestling because you're in a wheelchair. Like, they kind of just lets you assume that. Like, that's one of the few subtle things in these movies. I thought I'd never see the day where I use the word subtle when talking about Friday the 13th, but here we are.
But yeah, we forgot to say about the first movie. I mentioned this before we started recording. That I wanted to say what our favorite kill in each movie was and what our favorite weird moment was.
Oh yeah, so
I guess to backtrack real quick to the first movie.
Sure.
Favorite kill, and I'm pretty sure we're probably both gonna have the same one.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And favorite weird moment. I mean, it's just got to be Strip Monopoly, right?
Well, it's either Strip Monopoly or the coffee making scene. I think the coffee making scene is so terribly long and frustrating that I kind of love it.
Why is it there?
Because why is it there? Why is she putting sugar in with the coffee mix before she puts in the water? Like, that's just so odd to me that she does that way. It has never left my mind, that one shot. It's just so stupid. But yeah, Strip Monopoly, absolutely. But yeah, part 2, if we want to go with favorite kill,
is it also just Scott? And it's not Scott. I mean, the wheelchair.
Mark in the wheelchair. Yes, I agree. Because it's
probably the one that gets the most focus.
It's the one that gets the most focus. It's the one where oh god, it was just so weirdly hilarious because first of all, he gets a machete to the face. And then he falls down the stairs in his wheelchair. And then for whatever reason, it freeze frames on him falling down. It zooms in on him, and then it does the white flash transition, which, by the way, that's a common thing that happens in these Friday the 13th movies, is it does that white flashing transition thing.
I want to say that might just be censorship.
Maybe.
I want to say that there was probably more to this scene, but then got cut because the MPA are assholes. I don't know for certain.
Right.
I do know that there was definitely more to this movie that got cut and then was lost, because I think the Blu-ray did find some of those extra scenes. I don't think there's any sound to them because of it.
Right.
But I think they did find some stuff.
So
I want to say that when stuff like that happens, that it's a matter of the scene got cut in a weird place because of the censorship, so we fade to white.
Yeah. So that's definitely my favorite kill in the movie. That's the one I can definitely think of that is unique in some way. The rest of them are just stabbing, the spear I guess that was cool, and Jeff and Sandra are porking it, and Jason stabs him with the spear goes all the way down into the through the mattress. That's cool.
The kills are definitely more simple in the first couple movies.
Yes,
I would say it's not really until the third, and mostly the fourth. Well, not really even the fourth one, but mostly the third one, where they start experimenting more with what he's killing them with.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's still, I still like the Mark death because like it's pretty goofy, all things considered.
It's the first one they really focus on, and actually
Yeah.
is like more inspired. Like, oh
Yeah.
damn, yeah, that's kind of wild.
Exactly. Now, in terms of favorite like weird scene, I'd have to actually think about this one because there's a couple that I wrote down, but you'd say yours first.
I gotta remember, because I also gotta think a little bit here, trying to
Okay.
just remember everything, because we watched these movies all within a week of each other. So
Yeah, they kind of meld together, but this is why we take notes so then we can remember clearly. I will say this.
I didn't take notes.
Well, I'll say this. This movie has one of the greatest visual storytelling edits I've ever seen in a horror movie, and that's
Oh yes.
after the dog finds Jason, the movie hard cuts to hot dogs grilling on the grill, insinuating that dog is totally grilled, even though she comes back.
That's another that's another thing they stole from Halloween. Remember that scene in Halloween where it's implied that Michael Myers ate a fucking dog?
Yeah.
Like, that's not even a joke. No, it's straight up. There's a scene in the back where they find some bones of a dog. Like, is that a dog? And then Dr. Loomis just goes, he must have gotten hungry. Michael Myers ate a fucking dog.
Oh, Michael, you crazy bastard. Here's a comical moment. Ginny kicks Jason in the balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny. I love a good kick to the balls scene in a movie. It's really funny, obviously.
This is when Jason's still just mostly a strong guy.
Yeah, but still, like, getting kicked in the balls hurts, so I get it. I want to mention...
She's able to fight back.
Yeah, exactly. I want to mention this scene. Ginny pissing herself because she saw a rat while hiding from Jason, and Jason finding her because he sees the piss puddle coming out from under the bed, and so then he goes onto a chair and insinuates that he's left. Ginny comes out. He's about to stab her with the pitchfork, but the chair gives way because Jason's a big guy for you, and he just completely falls down and lets her get away because he's a klutz.
You know, I actually kind of interpret that scene the other way. I thought the rat was the one that took a piss.
That's a lot of piss, my dude, for a rat. That's why, like, I insinuated it was, I kind of interpreted it as her pissing, and the fact, but what makes
I think it's funny to get ratted out by a literal rat.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like you're hiding from a serial killer, and a fucking rat crawls up to you, and you're more scared of the rat. Hello, there's a killer with a pitchfork in the room. You need to get your priorities straight, Ginny.
Oh, Ginny. To be fair, she was just at a bar before this.
Very true. Very true.
Which, by the way, just to note, like, halfway through the movie, a lot of the characters go to a bar, including Ginny, so it's only a couple of them left at the camp, and those are the ones that get killed. And most of those guys don't even come back to the camp.
We never see them again. They go to that bar and never return.
To be fair, honestly, correct, based.
Yeah, no, I
But it's
would be
there's
one
also
of those characters.
the clown character, the funny guy.
Yeah.
He also stays at the bar. Correct decision.
Yeah.
He doesn't die then.
Because we never see him again. He's just like drunk at the bar, and that's it. His scenes are over.
But it makes it kind of feel a little abrupt. It's like, I feel like there was more here that just didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it's just...
Especially with like that ending too.
Yeah. Oh, the ending.
But before we get to the ending, I actually wanted to mention I forgot about the beginning of the movie.
Okay. Well, yeah, with Alice.
Yeah. Because we see where Alice was after 2 months after the first movie. It picks up there.
Right.
She's still coping and recovering from the incident, obviously. Somehow, we don't even know where Alice lives because there was a line in the first movie that implies that she lived in California.
Yeah.
Jason goes to her fucking house and kills her.
Yeah.
Jason left Crystal Lake to go somewhere to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, how?
I just want to see the scene of part 2 Jason on a Greyhound bus going to LA to stab a woman in the head.
With a bag over his head, yeah.
And then coming back.
That would be amazing. Oh. That would
Like,
be
did
so
he just
good.
walk there? It's like, obviously they're not going to explain it for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It's like how they don't explain how Jason got to Springwood and Freddy versus Jason because that would be stupid.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot of I'm glad you brought up the opening because I feel like another thing these movies do is they love showing scenes from the previous movie at the beginning
To recap.
To recap. I get it, to recap, but like they recap a lot. And it's like, okay, realistically, most people watching this movie should understand what's happening, you know? Like,
You say that, but remember when this came out in the 80s, still VHS was still primarily just to record TV. So you
right.
were only really watching movies in a theater.
No, I get that, but even still, like, I feel like they're showing a lot to like catch you up when realistically you only really need a little bit to kind of get
True.
I don't know.
They only really needed the flashes of Pamela at the end, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And like, but I'll give this movie some credit that it at least intersperses with like Alice lying on the bed, so then you know it's a dream sequence. Whereas in the other movies, they don't even really do that. They're just like, here's some scenes from the last movie. Yeah, like the third one opens with literally the climax of this movie.
Was the scene of Jason arm moving and getting back up in the second movie, or was that just something they did in the third movie?
That was in the third. That was just a third movie thing. I noticed.
Okay,
that.
so that's them. I think that's them then trying to retcon it so that or something. I don't know.
They're pulling a Halloween Resurrections after
Where it's
H2O.
like, because I guess the fake out at the end of this movie is implied to be like a dream or something, even though it's not.
Well, again, they're doing the whole dream thing where they're just like, oh, is it a dream? Is it not a dream? And it's just like, okay, why are we doing this here? Like,
It's also a really funny one, though, because it's like, oh, the dog came back, oh, and then Jason crashed through the window.
No, that's funny. I mean, yeah, no, that's funny. Don't get me wrong. But like, also, like, again, like, why are we making it a dream sequence? Like, it's just such a...
I guess I'm not even sure if it really even is a dream, because when was it time for her to fall asleep?
Well, yeah, because then it like, again, it does the white flash transition, and then she's just on a stretcher going to the hospital, and she's just like, what happened? And it's like, that's a good question. What did happen?
I mean, granted, at that point, it's also morning now.
Yeah, so I guess that's how they want to explain it, but whatever. But yeah, no.
But it's also like, she says, like, where's Paul? And I'm like, yeah, where is he?
Where is Paul? That's a good movie you should know.
Did Jason kill him?
Shrugs. I don't know.
Because we never hear about it.
We never see these characters again that I've seen. Like,
spoiler, we don't.
Okay, then.
Spoiler, the only recurring characters from this point on, Alice, who's already dead, Pamela in like flashbacks or like voice in archival voice stuff or whatever. Because like people like do like Pamela voice for like other reasons.
Sure.
Because like there's a whole thing where it's like in the first movie it's kill them, mommy, kill them, because it's Pamela's revenge thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in later movies we'll hear in Jason's head, kill them, Jason, kill for mommy.
I mean, that's interesting. You know what? That is something I wanted to mention with the first one. Is like it's kind of like a reverse Psycho, where you have the mother killing and like kind of interpreting her son's voice by being like,
correct.
Yeah. Which
also, we forgot to mention one of the most iconic things about this franchise.
Yeah. Is that, what is it? It's like key, ha, ha, ha.
Okay, so the sound, normally it sounds like someone going, like, you know that.
Yeah.
So the literal creation of the sound from Harry Manfredini, who scored the majority of these movies.
I've been noticing that. Yeah, he keeps popping up.
The way that he got the sound is he took words that he would say into the microphone and then distorted the sounds. The two specific words were kill and mommy.
Oh, kill.
So it's literally ki ma ah.
Okay.
To represent kill the mommy or kill for mommy and later, so it works within that.
Holy crap, that's
of course
really cool.
It's distorted, so it sounds more like the ch, but that is technically the official onomatopoeia is ki.
Okay, interesting.
And I guess we can talk about the music in these movies, because like
they're pretty
Friday
good.
the 13th has a really distinct musical identity.
Yeah, it's because like I can't say it's like it has like a theme I can hum like Halloween or The Exorcist, but it definitely has unique music to it that like kind of adds to the movie's environment, you know? Like we were saying, like the whole key, like, yeah, that's a very iconic sound. But yeah, even the rest of the music has like a very like intensity to it, like, and especially when something intense is happening on screen.
And when you hear the music, you know it's Friday the 13th specifically.
Yes.
You know what? This music would not be in a Halloween movie. This would
No.
not be in an Elm Street movie.
No.
All the movies all have their own musical identity.
Yeah.
Halloween has like that the classic John Carpenter synth. Elm Street has more like the piano dun 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 dun, and then some more techno stuff there every now and then. This Friday the 13th has a lot of strings and chime.
Strings harkening back to that Psycho. Like, it sounds very Psycho-ish at times.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like the music in Friday the 13th would not be in anything else. Like you hear this music like that's Friday the 13th. Now I don't remember how the music is in the later movies right now, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh,
but yeah, like the Harry Manfredini stuff, like you hear it like, yep, that's Harry.
Yeah. I've been seeing his name a lot in the credits. So I'm just like, oh, you're back. Cool.
But yeah, so where were we with part 2?
We might as well talk about the climax because I think we still want to talk about like what your
the shack.
The shack, or is this your favorite crazy scene from this movie?
Honestly, like I'm trying to really think what my favorite crazy moment is. It might just be the dog cut.
The dog cut is a good contender. That's the thing is like I don't know what my favorite crazy scene from this movie is. It's like a 3-way tie between the dog cut, the rat piss, and now Ginny puts on a sweater, pretends to be Pam, and Jason falls for it. Like,
I mean, to be fair, I do feel like the climax is pretty strong up until the abrupt ending.
Yeah,
because like it's a sign of Ginny thinking on her feet to try to figure out a solution.
Yeah,
she quickly understands that's Jason's mom because like they never really established why people know about Jason in the first place after he drowned, but whatever, it's an urban legend. And she knows about what happened 5 years prior.
Right.
So it's like she understands immediately what that is and what's going on. It's like, okay, this is a mama's boy.
Yeah.
The whole thing that I came up with earlier in the bar was just turned out to be completely correct. So it's like, okay, I'm going to pretend to be his mom because he's probably waiting for her to come back.
Right.
And it almost fucking works.
Yeah.
It's just that she moved out of frame at the exact wrong moment.
And Jason remembered, wait a minute, my mom's decapitated. You're not my mom. Like,
punch.
Yeah. So see, that's the thing is like on paper, I agree. I think it's a great moment where like the final girl is like using her quick wits to like kind of get out of a situation. Like, so that's cool. I always like seeing that in movies, like where a character like comes up with something clever to outsmart the killer rather than using violence. I'm just saying it's goofy as fuck having her put on this corpse's sweater, pretend to be Jason's mom.
This
and Jason
dusty old sweater covered in blood and water.
And she doesn't do anything. She like kind of like does something with her hair, but like not really. But again, Jason falls for it. Like, it's just so goofy to me that like I understand like it's actually it is a cool idea on paper. I'm just saying in execution wise, it is so funny.
Yeah, that's just a matter of the fact that it's still low budget.
Of course.
I think it had like $1 million or something to work with this time.
Okay.
Which like that's like twice the budget.
Yeah.
But that's still cheap.
Oh, again, how much did the Flash cost? It's like that is pittance compared to what movies are now.
I'm gonna flip back to the page of this just see what the stats are.
Oh yeah, I want to hear the stats for this movie. Yes, please.
This section is called the Coroner's Report, by the way.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay, production budget $1.25 million.
Okay.
Shot in Kent, Connecticut. U.S. box office 21,722,767. Opening weekend was 6,429,784, which is more than the first movie's opening weekend.
That's impressive.
And it was it had a 29.6% of the box office, and it was rank 1.
Wow, nice.
But yeah, still that's a jump, but still not that much. And again, like Tom Savini did not come back for the effects. It was Carl Fullerton, I believe was his name. Yeah, Carl Fullerton.
Yeah, no, they're still good effects, I think. They're just not Tom Savini effects.
I think they're probably about as on par with the first movie, honestly. Because Tom Savini has better works.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see better work from Tom Savini in the fourth movie, because Tom Savini comes back for the fourth movie.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awesome.
I think his motivation for coming back in the fourth movie was, oh, you're going to kill Jason? Then I'm doing it. I created him, I'm killing him.
Yeah, exactly. I brought you into this world. I can you upload it. You can upload it.
There's also another fun anecdote I have with the fourth movie from here, from the actor who played Jason in the movie. I guess we're also going to talk about who played Jason in this movie. Jason, typically from this point on, is usually going to be played by effectively a stunt guy in a suit and a mask.
Yeah, because you can't really do much acting outside of that. You have. Like,
I mean, honestly, though, it's nice to give a stunt guy like a big role like that. It's It's like, yeah, they do a lot of great work. They're like the backbone of a lot of the movies. In all honesty, like action movies, you need these guys.
Absolutely.
And like, yeah, having a stunt guy be your top billed guy, pretty based.
Very, very. I agree.
The guy who played Jason in this movie is a man by the name of Warrington Gillette, which is just a great name.
Yeah, that's quite the name.
The quote from here is, for someone 21 or 22 years old to be working on a motion picture, I thought, oh man, this is going to be my break into Hollywood. This is great. I got a part. I'll be a big star. Then I got a bag on my head. Then I have to jump through a window to kill Amy Steele with a machete through my shoulder and blood squirting all over the place.
How did he not go anywhere? I mean, come on. SMH.
What a time.
What a time indeed.
I like the... How do you feel about when Jason's unmasked in the movie? How do you feel about his look here? How do you feel about old man farmer Jason?
Yeah, because he has like the long like hair,
the strand of brown hair.
Yeah, it's definitely
the
unique.
one that he kind of that he grew up in 2 years and then a day later lost.
Yeah, exactly. It's inconsistencies, man. Yeah, I mean, I care very little for when Jason is unmasked. I mean, maybe that's just me and my Halloween brain thinking, because like it's
usually just done as the final scare.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think I like a killer better if they're gonna be masked. I like it better when they remain masked, like Michael Myers. I think that's a really cool idea of having him just completely masked all the time and you don't see what he looks like. Except when for Jason gets very rare occasions.
Honestly, Jason getting unmasked is mostly just a way for the guy doing the makeup to flex.
Sure, exactly.
That's what it is.
Yes, as I've seen in the other movies, yes, it is very much, hey, look what we can do.
Look at this prosthetic we made. Isn't that cool?
Doesn't he sort of look like Sloth from the Goonies? It's like, yeah, cool.
And that's basically it's just the makeup guy flexing every time, and because all of them have their own interpretation of the design. They all look similar, but they're well, the first parts look similar. Some of them later on look similar. Part 7 doesn't look like any of them, actually, now that I think about it.
But you know what? I think that's kind of a cool idea. Like every time he comes back, he has sort of a different interpretation. I think that could be really cool. I mean, because like that's what I kind of thought. Well, obviously, I didn't think that when I was watching this. I'm like, no, he's eventually going to get his hockey mask. But from the looks of it, it looked like every time they were going to have him show up, he was going to have like a different mask every time. And I feel like that could have been a really interesting aspect of this franchise. But then, no, it's just a hockey mask, which we'll get to when we get to part 3.
I mean, honestly, the reason he has a hockey mask in part 4 is just because he was already wearing it when he woke up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But then after that...
And now it's been in 2 movies, so we might as well keep it, because that's what Jason is.
Exactly. You don't just do like 2 things the same way and then change it up for the third thing. Like, what are
the moment you put it on the poster is the moment you've solidified it.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got a quote here from the people here are just talking shit on the mask right on this page. They're talking shit on the bag.
But why? It's a bag. Oh, because it's just a bag.
Dennis Murphy. The bag was not a favorite of mine or anybody's. I believe the costume designer was the one who came up with it. Nobody else had a better idea how to do it. It came out of not having a great idea. From Steve Miner. We had finished shooting right before the Elephant Man came out, and the whole thing with the bag was just an unfortunate coincidence. The mask wasn't meant as a joke. I never wanted people to laugh at Jason. Peter Stein. Just lighting the bag was difficult. The thing was to keep it edgy. Because white's horrible. White and black are the hardest things to light. I just didn't want to front light Jason. It was a real challenge to make it scary, not silly. Steve Daskowicz. That fucking bag! I don't think I need to keep reading this one. I think that says everything.
I just think that's really funny that Steve Miner's just like, I didn't want people to laugh at Jason, but yet you still filmed a scene of Jason getting hit in the gonads. Like, okay, dude, sure. Like,
I mean, if a guy with a pickaxe was coming at you, you'd kick him in the balls, right?
yeah, exactly.
So to be fair,
yeah, but still, like, come on. Like,
that fucking bag.
That's such a good line. That fucking bag.
We're kind of jumping around the place, but like I did also want to mention that, like, because in the first movie, when they're coming to the camp to set it up, like, yeah, we see us doing some renovations, but then they're just kind of hanging out because of the storm.
Yeah.
But here, it really does feel like they're on actual staff. We see their meetings. We see the office. Like, no, yeah, these guys are actually counselors.
Yeah, exactly. Except they don't
So,
counsel anybody because, well,
they die.
They die, yeah.
But, yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about with the second movie?
Not really. I like it a hair better because of those crazy moments. The hot dogs, the rat piss, the the sweater, the kick to the balls.
And that's the thing with the franchise in general, that's like, people say that they're slow and kind of boring, and at face, yeah, you're not wrong, but like, if you stop and smell the roses a little, you'll notice all the fucking weird things and just silly moments that, like, that's where the charm comes in, and that's what makes them fun.
Absolutely.
Like, in the third movie, let's skip ahead just slightly, like, you see the guy at the shop at the beginning of the movie, and it's like, there's just trains all over the place. They did never mention it, but there's just trains all over the place. The guy has a fucking rabbit just sitting in the vegetable bin.
Yeah.
And it's like, none of this is explained. It just is. Like,
it just is.
I know so much about this man now just from that.
Exactly. Yeah. So
now he's dead. But you know what? This man had a life.
Yeah, exactly. We can get into the third one. There's really not much to say about number two. It also
How about the fact that the title screen blows up for no reason?
Well, that's just two being two.
Well, 4 does it too, where it's like they play the generic movie explosion sound effect on the title screen, and it's like, what kind of movie is this now?
Yeah, but 4, because it's trying to be like the final chapter, whereas 2, it's just part 2.
I'll tell you this much. They also wanted part 3 to be the last one, but then it also made money.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of the problem. But yeah, part 2, we're kind of done with. It also has a reversible cover, but I mean, the reversed cover is just the title, whereas like, at least with
it's the one it's just the one she posts that says the body count continues, right?
Yeah, whereas the original one is just, the outline of the body with the bloody axe. It's like, and it also says the body count continues. It's like, okay, that's a little more clever, so I'm keeping it that. Anyway, part 3, Harold. Oh, Harold. Well, let's start off with part 3 by mentioning the fact that it's in 3D.
Yeah. Because that was the weird part. Trends always come back after like 30 years. Like, how like a lot of 80s horror movies were really like inspired by a lot of the 50s horror movies, like like creature features and stuff.
Yeah, you had The Thing and The Blob and stuff like that. Yeah.
You had Killer Clowns, which was like a celebration of that kind of thing, kind of.
Right, exactly.
Stuff that was like the Monster Squad, which that's more about the Universal monsters, but same kind of deal.
Yeah, but it's still from the 80s. Yeah.
Because it's like because the directors at that point were now adults, and that's what they grew up with.
Right, exactly.
You have like leading into the 90s, you have Matinee from Joe Dante. Yeah. Which is the movie where John Goodman plays not William Castle. So like 3D was a fad for a little bit in the 50s. I don't know how many movies actually were filmed in 3D back then. The first Creature from the Black Lagoon was one of them. I know that.
Okay.
But yeah. and then 3D died. And then apparently one of the first big movies to come back to do it was Coming At Ya, which was a Western from Spain.
Okay, interesting.
Which I've actually seen that at one point just because the DVD was like $3 at Target one day, like 6 years ago. Didn't know it was from Spain, but yeah, that was a movie that was filmed for 3D, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it was also a hit. So now people want to do 3D again. And there was the big trend where like there were some series that were already becoming franchises. So for the third movie, it said, this is going to be the 3D one, and we can call it Jaws 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th, part 3D.
Oh, it's so blatant.
Like, part of it was also just a matter of we gotta go bigger for the third movie, and what's bigger than 3D?
What's bigger than 3 dimensions? Ooh.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like also part of it was probably a mandate from Paramount. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would not be surprised. Yeah, no, that sounds.
I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted them to do it too. It was like, hey, do this one in 3D. It'd be cool.
Yeah, exactly. And well,
and they did. I think it's been said before that I've heard that they did not know what they were doing. They're just kind of like, so it's 3D. Do we just kind of like dangle it in front of the camera?
Oh, every time something was close up to the camera, I made sure to write it down because it was the funniest, most blatant thing in the world. It was so funny. Just like literally. So, well, first of all, the movie starts off explicitly saying, ladies and gentlemen, the first few minutes of this picture are not in 3D. However, you will need the special 3D glasses, which is really funny. But the reason it's not in 3D is because it's literally just the climax from part 2 where Ginny's like putting on the sweater and being like, Jason, it's me, your mother. Like, and then it does show like him like getting up and like, so then it transitions into the 3D part where we see
somehow within a couple of hours, Jason went from having hair to being bald again.
Yeah. Suspicious. But yeah, so Harold, the first guy, Harold, pointing the pole directly into the camera shamelessly because the movie is in 3D. It's like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious.
And for the longest time, whenever you watch this movie, if you wanted to watch it in 3D, it was the red and blue 3D.
Oh,
which you know, because that was that was the only way you could do 3D for the longest time in home video.
Yeah.
So, oof.
Yeah.
So most people just didn't watch it in 3D.
Well, that's the thing is like this Blu-ray does come with the option to see it in 2D or in 3D.
Yes, that's one of the noble things about the Shadow Factory box set is that this is the first and only release of Friday the 13th Part 3 with actual 3D.
Yeah.
So if you have a 3D TV and set up to watch 3D movies, you can actually finally watch Part 3 in correct 3D.
Which I realized I didn't. I still chose the 3D option, but like it just played it in regular 2D because my TV literally couldn't play it in 3D. But like I still got the gist of it. Like they were just putting things right into the camera to be like, oh, 3D. It's like, okay, guys.
I mean, it's funny.
No, it is so funny. I pointed every time I saw it. I was giggling to myself. I was like, this is hilarious.
I know it looks goofy, but like the eyeball kill, genius.
Well, that's my favorite kill in the whole movie. And this movie specifically is the eyeball kill. It's it is very cheap. It is very much an effect. You can literally see the string.
Right. Because and that's entirely in fault of the camera being the way it is because it's 3D. Because it was a 3D camera.
But it's a unique kill. Like, it is
it's
so
also like
good.
the first time Jason's really shown to have like super strength, kind of.
Yes. Yeah, because he's literally just smashing Rick's face. Like, absolutely.
Like, it's my second favorite kill. If you want to hear my favorite it's the harpoon gun.
That one's a good one too. I like that one too because the harpoon goes right into the camera and then it cuts to what's her face?
It's probably like the best use of the 3D in all honesty.
Yeah, it is the best use, absolutely. But like, yeah, then it hits Vera in the eye and it's she falls over.
It's also because it's the first full reveal of Jason when he's Jason,
Exactly.
It's like, this is the moment.
This is the moment, absolutely. But yeah, so I want to talk about Harold, please. He's so goofy.
I knew you'd like Harold.
So
what a fucking guy.
One of his first scenes is him like feeding his fish, and then he's like, "Look, guys, it's good," and he eats it. He eats the fish food too.
It's terrible. He has trains all over that place.
He has
his wife is nagging at him. He just has a pet rabbit hiding out there.
He has the pet rabbit sitting in the grocery store items, and then
he's eating the grocery store.
He's eating the inventory.
We see him take a shit. He just has whiskey in his bathroom just cuz.
He's drinking booze while he's taking his shit. Like, what?
What a guy.
What a guy. And then he dies. But,
we knew everything we needed to know about that man.
Yeah, no, to bring that up, so, like, the fact that, like, we get this character, I mean, that just kind of, in a weird way, it humanizes him. So then when Jason does get to actually killing him, it's like, okay, I get it. This is a bad thing. Well, I mean, going on a killing spree is a bad thing, but, like, I don't know. I feel like the movie still takes the time, still takes the effort to flesh out these characters. I use that term very sparingly when talking about these movies, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't know. It's doing so in a way that it didn't have to, but even though it is, I like the way that it's doing it. Like, just showing this dude and his life as a grocery store owner with a pet rabbit with whiskey next to his toilet, like, it's fascinating.
Like, that man had a life. This is an actual world.
Exactly.
That's like, it kind of just pitches Jason as more of a proper villain, because it's like, yeah, this is just a straight up serial killer.
Exactly. But yeah, Harold and his nagging wife die. Oh well.
I don't care about the wife. That's fine.
Yeah, no, nobody cares about the wife. She's just a huge bitch.
But yeah, it's also like Jason isn't even just sticking to the immediate campgrounds anymore. He's doing what he's doing. He just got there like, well, I guess I'll kill these guys now because I'm here.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's this Higgins Haven? Well, it's near my lake, so fuck these guys.
Exactly. Also, there's a kid who holds up a baseball bat to the camera because the movie's in 3D.
That's not even the weirdest one. Can we talk about the not Crazy Ralph for a second?
Oh,
the random hobo they find in the middle of the road is like, oh, you're all very nice, generous people.
Yeah.
I got this morning from God. That's a fucking eyeball. Don't go there. You're doomed. What?
The funniest thing about that scene is that even though he says it's an eyeball, it looks nothing like an eyeball. It looks like a It looks like
cheese.
It looks like cheese. It looks like a smushed up cotton ball, a smushed up tampon. It is anything but an eyeball. And the movie puts it up into the camera, so all your focus is on this awful eye prop because the movie's in 3D. Oh, it's so funny.
What a time.
What a bunch of teenagers this is. These are the...
They do appear younger in this one. Yes.
They appear younger. They look kind of similar. Well, there's this constant, like, there's always this constant actor who has, like, I know it's different actors every time, but, like, people who just look like Mark and Scott, where, like, they have, like, the short black hair. I feel like that kind of character shows up a lot in these movies.
I mean, that's just... people that look like that.
Yeah, I know, but it's just really funny that every single one of these movies has a character that looks exactly like that.
Yeah.
But no other character looks like Shelley. I'll give him that. Shelley does look very unique.
I do have to talk about Shelley. He's kind of a fan favorite character, kind of less for the movie itself though, and more just for the man playing Shelley. Shelley is played by Larry Zerner, he's not an actor anymore. After he's finished acting, he went to law school and became a lawyer. He's now a Hollywood lawyer. And the reason this is relevant is because you're aware of the whole legal problem with Friday the 13th the past couple years, where Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham were like in dispute over ownership because it was over 35 years, so rights had to go reverted back to the original writer. And there was a huge dispute about that, which is why we haven't gotten a movie since 2009, why the video game got like all of its upcoming content axed, why there just hasn't been any motion on it because of that court case.
Okay, yeah.
Larry Zerner was actually involved with the case. I don't know if he was like directly involved or if he was just like following it closely because he's a lawyer, but he was basically like the liaison for the fans to let them know, here's what's going on.
Okay.
Like, he was one stepping and saying, all right, here's what's going on with the case right now, guys. We know what's here's what's going on. It was just nice to have someone on the inside helping with us who cares about the franchise. Because he kept up with the fans. Like, people like him and he likes being involved with the series.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, like, great guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was just nice having him always there to say, this, what you heard here, that's not true. Their case isn't over yet. We're working on this. All right, great, break.
Yeah, and you can definitely trust him because he actually because he's an actual lawyer. So like he understands.
He knows what he's talking about.
Right.
He knows the legal mumbo jumbo.
Exactly. Wow.
So good really on cool. Larry Zerner.
Yeah, good on Larry Zerner.
How about Shelley?
Sounds nothing like Shelley. I wanted to mention he looks.
It's my whole world.
He looks a lot like Jonah Hill in Superbad, and I don't know if that's like
a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know, but he's just like this fat, like curly-haired weirdo who loves pranking people with props. It's just incredibly random. This is the first time where I feel like the movies were starting to become a little aware of what they were, because you have that scene where Shelley pranks people and you think like, oh, in any other movie leading up to this one, they would not have subverted that. They would have been like, no, this is a real scene. Like, oh, Shelley is dead. But no, like then Shelley gets up. It's just like, it was a prank, guys. Like this is when the movies started to realize, oh, we can subvert these tropes that we've been doing. Like, and I think that's really cool. Like this is the movie where that kind of started. But like,
well, that also comes back too, because like when Shelley actually dies, she doesn't believe it. Like, oh, Shelley, cut it out.
Yeah,
and it's not until like she looks back and sees he's still alive, and they're like, Shelley, knock it off. And then realizes it's real blood and he's not breathing.
Right, exactly.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like this movie could play along with that. Like that's really cool. Is like using that.
Shelley is also accidentally the most important character in the movie, because one of the props he just so happened to bring with him was a white and red hockey mask.
So I really want to talk about that, because I'm thinking, okay, we haven't gotten to the hockey mask yet. This is the movie where it's introduced. So I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be some significant way that's going to be introduced. It's like, no, Shelley just so happened to have a hockey mask, and Jason just so happened to put it on to cover his face.
Because he killed Shelley at that point. That's kind of like part of the subversion where it's like, oh, it's Shelley again. He's pranking her. And then he shoots her in the face.
Yeah.
Oops.
But my thing is, Shelley obviously loves having like horror props with him, which implies that the hockey mask is a horror prop. But the hockey mask, I feel like, is iconic because of Friday the 13th. But again, was the hockey mask used in other movies before that weren't Friday the 13th? Or
no, it's because they didn't want to do the bag again, and they were doing makeup tests and didn't know what the actual mask would end up being yet. So they just kind of asked around what anyone had and said, I have this hockey mask, do the makeup test and that. Okay, cool.
Okay.
And they just kept doing it.
And they just
kept doing it. So they just, well, I guess we're using the hockey mask now.
Yeah, but I get why they kept the hockey mask. Like when he wakes up in 4 and he has it still on, you're like, all right, this is the second movie we're using the hockey mask. We might as well continue to use it. And it is a striking mask to use. It's like a very creepy mask you want to use for your serial killer. You can't really see their face. You can see their eyes like edged out, but you can't see their face. So I get it. It's a very striking image. What I'm saying is, where the hell did it come from? I know it came from Shelley, but why the hell does Shelley have a hockey mask with the explicit idea of wanting it to be a horror prop? Like, I guess.
Well, why was he wearing it with a scuba costume?
I don't know. Like, why is the origin of this hockey mask so confusing? Is my question. I thought this would be the easiest
answer
thing.
is there was no significance to it at the time. They didn't plan on sticking with it. It's just that continuity-wise, Jason was already wearing it at that point, so we're just going to keep doing it. And, we've accidentally changed the course of the entire genre.
Yeah.
Oops.
I thought it would be far more important because Friday the 13th is such an iconic horror franchise. I thought the answers would be a lot more obvious. No.
The answer is there is no answer because it was never intended to be that. It's just that that's just how history ended up being. That goes again with what I was saying, that like nothing was planned. It just kind of all happened as they were going along. And it just so happened that the stuff that they just came up with on the spot as they were going along became super fucking iconic and important to slashers and horror in general.
The answer is it was a accident.
Yeah. Again, like, it's a victim of its own success.
It really is.
It makes you think that it's this big, huge, important thing when it's like, no, it's just he was wearing it because he was wearing it.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's so interesting to me that that's the origin of the hockey mask. This iconic horror icon. It's just what
he was wearing.
It's just what he was wearing. It literally could not be any more simple. Oh God, it's just what a movie.
Isn't that Occam's razor that the most obvious answer is the answer?
Yeah, I think that's what that is. Yeah. So you know what? I should not be surprised, but I am, unfortunately. Oh.
Why was he wearing a hockey mask? That's just what they had in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, the actual movie now.
Yeah. So
do you want to talk about the one weird one-off line when they're in the van driving and it's like they set up the fact that the one girl is pregnant and then they never mention it again and it never comes up?
I want to mention that because this girl explicitly says at the beginning, "I'm pregnant." And then later on in the movie, when her boyfriend is like, so
give me
obviously,
that beer.
Yeah, give me that beer. First of all, she's drinking while she's pregnant. Second of all, she has sex with her boyfriend. Like, after the boyfriend so obviously is throwing the yo-yo into the camera, like, 3D. But, like, you guys had sex? Aren't you pregnant? Didn't this already happen? Like, what are you doing?
Well, you can't get her pregnant again.
You can't. You literally can't. Like,
so why can't she just keep happening? I mean, at that point, well, it already happened.
Yeah.
Well, you can't get unpregnant. Well, anyway, let's fucking the hammock.
But that's the thing, is like, why was this here? Why are you saying you're pregnant, but then you also are explicitly drinking, you're explicitly having sex?
I think the idea is that they're terrible people.
Well, yeah, I guess.
It's just I think they only did that line just to set up, because they have a lot of sex. These are the ones that have sex a lot.
I guess.
Except we already knew that because there was already a line about them having sex earlier.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just such a weird one-off line.
And it goes nowhere. It's just such a weird line to include. You could cut it out.
It's just there so that you can make a joke about when she dies. It's a 2-for-1.
I guess so. The movie doesn't make that joke. Like, we made that joke. But, like...
because they forgot.
The movie forgets. I thought it was just like, okay, is this supposed to be funny that, like, looking back, like, we were just so irresponsible with pregnancy back in the day that people drank while pregnant? But it's like,
because they're irresponsible teenagers, so they don't care.
Yeah, but like, I figured people knew about that back then. I didn't think people were that irresponsible back in the 80s, but like, yeah, no, it's literally just they forgot.
The teenagers that have sex a lot. Therefore, they have sex so much in the stupid teenagers. She probably got knocked up. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Continue.
But like, it's just such a weird line to include in anyway.
Yeah. Again, because
also,
it doesn't go anywhere.
Also, there's the two stoners.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the two stoners in the back who look like they're way too old to be hanging out with these guys.
Yeah. Why were they there?
They just were.
I mean, were they there because... Well, I love the scene at the beginning that introduces them where they're like, hey, the van's on fire. And you see all this smoke coming out of it.
And it's just them.
And it's just them. And it's like, why would you think the van's on fire? Didn't you know you had the stoners in your van? Like...
I mean, would you want to be that blatant in New Jersey where weed is still illegal?
Well, that's the other joke is like I was just like, why are you smoking weed? And the guy's just like, why? Is there a law against it? And I'm thinking, actually, no, not anymore. But I guess back in the 80s.
Are you just gonna smoke weed all weekend? Well, what else is there to do?
Yeah, die.
Also, again, real quick, at the cut, after my dog's out, apparently, so I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes, cool.
This is the problem with doing really long episodes.
Yeah, it is. Don't worry.
There was a little Spanish flea.
I can't wait till 15 minutes from now. I have to let them in. Anyway, they didn't want to go out earlier because it was raining.
I'll edit around it, maybe. Maybe we'll include this in the episode. Who knows? Ooh.
You just put like the instrumental chords from the movie in, making them think that someone's gonna die, and then you got copyrighted, so you can't.
No, I'll figure something out. Don't worry. Anyway,
yeah, what you'll figure out is you'll press S to cut the scene in 2 places, and then delete the middle.
Yeah. I'll do exactly that.
It's called editing it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are we?
Well, I want to talk about Chris a little, the main actress, the main character.
Right. The timeline fuckery.
So, yeah, I want to talk about that. So the movie sets up that, Chris had this horrible experience like a year or so ago, and like she's getting back to the cabin in the woods, and like, this is a big thing for her, and she won't open up to Rick, and Shelly's prank really affected her emotionally. You're just like, what was this thing? Like, what happened? She encountered Jason, and that's it. Like,
also, well, like, yeah, but also it's a matter of when the hell did this happen? Because, okay, part 1 takes place in the summer of 1979 in universe.
Yes.
Part 2 is 5 years later.
Yes.
Part 3 happens the day after part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Chris's flashback took place 2 years ago.
Yes.
Which would mean 3 years after the events of the first movie. So 3 years is after Jason kills Alice and goes fuck off for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Randomly terrorizes this girl. And then 2 years later loses a lot of weight and grows a head of hair, and then 1 day later loses all of it and gains all that weight back.
Yeah.
What? You saw Jason before he came back? How did that happen?
Now, see, I don't mind that you have a scene of her interacting with Jason, because like it kind of adds it kind of adds a little depth to the character, and it kind of adds this mystery to this character. But then it's like the actual scene is so lame, because like she's like remembering this horrible traumatic night of this weird looking guy approaching her, and then nothing happens. Like nobody dies in that situation. She doesn't get stabbed. She doesn't get like a scar. Like nothing happens. She just, it's like this weird anticlimactic thing where like, you think like this is like this huge thing that happened to this character, because the movie builds it up so much, and it was just, hi, Jason. Okay, I wake up. Jason's not there anymore. Like, what is the deal? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. But my concern is more just a matter of how and when did this happen.
Yeah.
It's like the continuity is good in some places you wouldn't expect, and then stupid in others.
Yeah, no. It makes no sense continuity-wise, and the actual scene itself is unbelievably lame in terms of, like, actually having any emotional weight to it. Like, what a letdown. It's just so strange to me. Yeah, not a fan, but hey, I mean, if that's the worst the movie has, I think the movie's doing pretty well. Do we want to talk about the punks in the movie?
Oh yeah, the random biker gang that's just there to be more bodies to kill.
Yeah. There's the scene where like one of them like punches the car window with the chains around his hand.
Yeah.
And he punches towards the camera. Oh.
I will give them credit that there's the old trope of, oh no, the car won't stop, we can't leave. because of them, it's actually set up earlier in the movie because they siphon the gas out of the car.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they actually set that up.
Yeah, no, that was a great thing. I like when they're like actively like trying to get the gas out because they want to burn down the barn. Random. But like the fact that there's no gas then left, and so then she has a hard time escaping, that makes sense. Absolutely. Like that's, and again, like even in the last movie when like it's established that Ginny's car has car troubles and like that's why she can't escape either. It's like these movies have reasons why the car doesn't work. They don't just come up with them at the last second like a terrible horror movie that's ripping this off would do. So yeah, no, I agree. I'm appreciative of the fact that the movie takes the extra mile to give a reason why the van can't escape.
What else we want to talk about here?
There's a couple more scenes I want to talk about that were in 3D. Like the scene when well, I mentioned the yo-yo.
Which I think that scene is kind of funny.
Yeah, there's a scene where like a character falls down. Oh, there's a scene where Chris falls down from the rafters and like she like falls onto the camera. That's also in 3D. Oh, there was a scene where like a character was taking a shit and I'm like, oh, why isn't this in 3D? And there's when the characters are having sex. How come we don't see that in 3D? Like, how come the movie didn't go that far? Oh, because the MPAA.
If you wanted to see it in 3D, they'd also have to answer the question of how you do it in a hammock.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's the scene when like what's her face, the pregnant bitch who's not actually who may or may not be pregnant is like reading the what was it, Fangoria, the magazine with the Godzilla ad that also has the Godzilla versus Megalon poster, the classic Godzilla versus Megalon poster,
the American poster for Godzilla versus Megalon, which that poster only is like that because they was trying to hype off the success of the 76 King Kong, which was also Kong standing on the Twin Towers.
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Because funny nowadays, the reason being was why there was Twin Towers in the movie is because they would just finish being built like a couple years earlier.
Yeah.
And now they were the tallest buildings in New York instead of the Empire State Building.
Yeah, so it made sense.
And then, there's a new King Kong movie. We need to get people to watch these other monster movies. How do we do it? Make the poster look like the King Kong poster. So now Godzilla is standing on top of the Twin Towers.
Even though
he is taller than those buildings in the first place, but whatever.
Whatever. Yeah, but like again, like that. I think that scene also kind of harkens back to when the Kevin Bacon kill from the first movie, because like, you know, the blood starts dripping and then like she looks up, she sees her boyfriend who's just mangled to death. Oh, that's another thing is like when he's like this is the movie where he's like walking on his hands and like Jason fucking like slices him and he falls down towards the camera because it's in 3D. Like that's another 3D scene.
Should we talk about some of the kills now?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we mentioned the eye popping scene where like Jason is like smushing Rick's head and like his eye pops out towards the camera.
We mentioned the harpoon gun.
We mentioned the harpoon to Vera's eye.
Because it's part of the big reveal of Jason as we know him today.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first thing we do it when he's the fully formed Jason you know.
Exactly.
There's... What else is there?
There's when one of the hippies like electrocutes to death.
Oh right. The one dude does handstands all the time. Gets his dick cut off probably.
Yeah.
We don't actually see it because it's Jason. We see Jason swing down and then blood.
Yeah, and then
I'd imagine he gets cut right in half. I'd imagine he gets like cut in half or some shit probably.
Something like that, I'm sure.
The biker lady gets stabbed for the neck, and the other guy gets hanged.
He gets hanged. Yeah, the biker lady gets the pitchfork, and she's hanging there, and the fucking pitchfork pole is like up into the camera to let you know this movie's in 3D.
How about Ollie, who we think dies earlier, and then you forget? I always forget he doesn't actually die there, and just so he can come back at the end to buy Chris a couple seconds.
Well, that was really funny because he comes back, he's like, I'll get you, and then he dies immediately. It's literally for a couple of seconds. It's
like he gets his hand cut off just cause, and then dies.
It's very comical.
He is only there to buy her 5 seconds.
Exactly. Which kind of makes you wonder, like, what was all that stabbing that Jason was doing earlier? Did he just miss?
I guess he was more just bludgeoning him.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't remember what Jason was actually using at that point.
It might have been a
Jason uses a lot of weapons.
He does use a lot of weapons, which is pretty cool.
He tries to only use each weapon once in a movie.
Yeah, that's pretty commendable.
The machete's the most iconic.
Mm-hmm.
But he uses basically everything. Again, the fucking spear gun.
The fucking spear gun, the fucking pitchfork, his hands when he's just crushing Rick's skull again. Like, yeah, he uses a variation.
Which kind of makes you wonder why the machete is a popular one, but I guess just because it's in every movie at some point.
Yeah, it's you want to have your serial villain character like with a weapon if he is a serial killer, so you want to have him with it. He's just not as consistent with it like Michael Myers is with his knife,
or Freddy with his patented glove,
exactly. So I
kind of love some of the weapons he uses later on. Remember Slash, the rock star?
Slash, yes, the guitarist for Guns N' Roses, right?
Yeah, the guy who bashes the guitar who smashes the guitar all the time.
Is that him?
I think so.
I mean, I know it's a common thing among rockers is smashing the guitar.
You know how people smash the guitar?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah, the only other thing I feel like I really want to talk about is the very ending when like Chris is on the boat and she thinks.
Well,
okay.
First, we get like the big extended chase sequence, like the second movie, where she's doing her best to fight back and not die.
Yeah,
I think it's a fine finale for the most part, and then she finally manages to get rid of Jason for a little bit. She goes out to the boat for safety, and then. Oops, another dream sequence. There's a bunch of fake outs, and then we see Jason is still in the window. He starts running towards her, and then he disappears. Where did he go? And then suddenly, the decomposing body of Pamela Voorhees jumps out and pulls her under.
Now, does Chris realistically know who Pamela Voorhees is?
You have no reason to know who that is. There is no reason for her to be there in this dream sequence.
No.
I think it is only there because it's a subversion of the first movie where it's like, oh, Jason's coming out together in the cabin. But then Pamela strikes.
Yeah. Oh, the old switcheroo. You really got me. Friday the 13th,
just
part
to connect
3.
It's just to connect to the first movie because they did want this one initially be the last one.
Okay.
And then it made money.
Shit! It made money.
Oops. Let me grab the book again real quick because we need to get the stats out again. Here.
Oh yeah, please. I need to hear the stats.
Let's read the coroner's report.
Yeah. Let's read the coroner's report.
Part 3. Budget, $2.25 million.
Okay.
Shooting locations, the Lose It Movie Ranch, Saugus, California.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. There's a scene at the beginning of this when like the guys are going to pick up Vera. That's when we see like the kid like holding the baseball bat up against the camera. They're like walking, and I can explicitly see in the background a palm tree in one of the house's front lawn. I'm like, oh, they filmed this shit in California.
Yeah, this is explicitly, you can very easily tell looking at the landscapes that, this is not a campground in New Jersey anymore.
No, it's California.
But yeah, U.S. box office, $36,690,067.
Wow.
Opening weekend, $9,406,522. 25.63% of the box office, rank 1.
Wow.
It got a re-release a year later in 83 because there was no movie in 83. There were 2 years where there was not a Friday the 13th in the 80s. It was 83 and I think 87.
Okay, that sounds about right, maybe.
Let me double check on that real quick.
Yeah, double check that just in case.
It was 83 and 87.
That's actually interesting that like every other year in the 80s has a Friday the 13th movie except for 83 and 87.
Well, again, that's part of why it's the big iconic series, because it came out almost every year for 10 years.
Right. It was the Saw of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a US re-release, May 14th. That's a Friday.
Oh.
Re-release box office 2,108,548.
Oh.
And the re-release ranked number 10.
Okay. It's still something. Yeah.
They also have a date of the first DVD release for all these in the sales figures. This book came out like for the 25th anniversary of the series, so that was 2005. So that information is horribly out of date, so I'm not going to bother reading it.
That's fine. That's just like the Star Wars book I had when we talked about the Ewok movies. That came out after Revenge of the Sith and was just like, oh, look at all the Star Wars facts. It's like a lot has happened since 2005.
Yeah, like the book for them, other than the stats here, like all the information is still basically the information. Like
Right.
It's still a great resource.
Yeah.
And like they don't have the 2009 film in here, obviously.
Mhm.
When they do the documentary of the same name, that will be in there because that came out in 2011.
Okay, that makes sense then.
But yeah, so the documentary is more up to date just by nature of it came out like 6 years later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still a good book to have.
Yeah, that sounds it.
But yeah,
I
just find it funny that they talk about the DVD releases as if that's a huge stat when like, yeah, I think those are impressive numbers, but also it's been like over 20 years since then.
Yeah.
And you can walk into it is easier to find I feel like I have an easier time finding the Friday the 13th movies in a box set at Walmart or Target than I do a Blu-ray copy of fucking Footloose. So take that, Kevin Bacon.
Oh, Kevin. Oh, can we talk about the music in part 3, please?
Yeah, the random funk song for the title.
Again, to go back off the idea that I feel like this is the movie that kind of figured out what it was, like, this is some goofy ass music to have in this movie. Now, first of all, I almost attributed that to the fact that this came out in 1982, the same year as Thriller.
Bump, bum, bum, bum.
But like, even still, like, this is just, even if that has nothing to do with it, it's just such a funky title music. Like, even the subtitles call it funky title music. It is so blatant. Like, it's so amazing just how different the music in this movie is compared to the movie before it.
Like, it has no place.
But it's still the same, like, composer, right?
Yeah, it's still Harry. All the other music still sounds like the other movies.
Right.
It's just the title sequence.
Yeah, but it's just so funny. I thought it was so
with
funny.
like the zoom in on Pamela's head and then the 3D coming out of her eyes.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
Exactly.
I say there's not that many memorable songs. That one is.
Yeah, that one's memorable.
Explicitly for that reason.
Exactly.
Bum, bum, bum.
But yeah, is there anything else?
Why Pamela at the end?
I know. I'm still scratching my head at that too. I mean, at this point, I've kind of accepted it. It's just like, oh, it's a dream sequence. But again, even within the context of it being a dream sequence, it still doesn't make sense because Chris has no idea who Pamela is.
Oh yeah, a favorite weird moment. Mine's the fucking hobo with the eyeball.
So the hobo with the eyeball is very good. Honestly, yeah, that's probably... I mean, I could probably go for it being a twofer where, like, Rick's eye popping out is both my favorite kill and my favorite crazy moment. But the hobo with the eye is also very good, too. Or any scene with Harold, that, too. Like, I don't know if I can necessarily choose my all-time favorite out of all of them. But certainly some very noteworthy moments in this movie. That we'll say that.
Oh yeah, another thing I noticed about the movie is that in the opening titles, one of the top billed characters is the guy they got for Jason.
Yeah, no, that's really cool that he gets top billing.
Because like, oh, we're only 3 movies in, and it's a different actor each time, and they actually do say start with Brooke. What was his name again? Brooke Warrington or something?
Oh, it's a good question. We should double check this.
I had it. I mentioned it in my Letterboxd post. Follow us on Letterboxd.
Please do, yeah.
God, the fucking Gibby pilot that leaked online is on Letterboxd.
Yeah, because Buster watched it. Shout out to Buster. Richard Brooker.
Richard Brooker.
We got Richard Brooker for acting as Jason. It's like, cool, I guess.
And it's going to be a different guy until part 7, for the record, every time.
Okay, yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, part 3.
Like, it's kind of neat that they actually did that, because Freddy wouldn't even get top billing until the 4th movie. And it's Robert Englund in every movie there.
Right, yeah.
Granted, part 4 is also the one where he's introduced with the Jaws parody and then puts on the sunglasses. So, you know.
By that point, they knew what they were doing.
At that point, they knew what they had.
Right, exactly.
Very obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. So the movie made money.
Yeah, it did.
But then they're like, okay, we gotta finish this guy off. We gotta stop this story.
Yeah, so after part 3...
So, part 4, the final chapter, Jason's Unlucky Day.
Is that like, are those like some of the other titles that it had? Jason's Unlucky Day?
Tagline, it's part of like the extended tagline for the movie.
Oh, okay.
Taglines: 3 times before you felt the terror, known the madness, lived the horror. Now, this is the one you've been screaming for.
Yeah.
Friday, April 13th is Jason's Unlucky Day.
That's so funny. So yeah, part 4, the final chapter. Ooh.
Yeah, the final chapter, and it made 32,980,880 against a 2.6 million budget. Oh no!
Yeah, there's nothing final about it. But we might as well talk about it. So yeah, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, part 4.
Starring 2 actually pretty known guys at this point.
Yeah.
Corey Feldman, he's been in stuff. I mean, I don't know if he was known at that point, but he's been in stuff. He's a known actor.
Yeah, he was definitely a known actor after this because he was in The Goonies and Stand By Me.
He was in Gremlins.
He was in Gremlins. He was also in Gremlins. He was in Fox and the Hound before this because that's 1981, but he was not a known actor in Fox and the Hound.
But yeah, and fucking Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover. George McFly himself.
And he plays the most awkward, skinny white dude you've ever seen.
He plays exactly the kind of character you would expect Crispin Glover to play in a movie. Yes.
He's just so upset about being called a dead fuck. Hey, Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?
Just the fact that, yeah, Crispin Glover, he's Crispin Glover, all right.
I'm just gonna say it now. Favorite kill. Hey, Ted, where's the corkscrew? Favorite weird moment. The fucking dance.
Oh yeah, we might as well just talk about the dance. Crispin Glover dances in this movie, and it's Crispin Glover dancing. Like, it is so weird.
It just comes out of nowhere because everyone's just kind of hanging out, and then he just abruptly gets the fuck up, marches over to the jukebox or whatever, and puts on a random 80s rock song, the most generic 80s rock song you've ever heard, and just says, "You want to dance?" And then fucking puts on the moves.
I remember you were saying, like, even within context, it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, it is so...
It had less build-up than I remembered it having.
Yeah, it is so out of the blue, but it is... I agree. It is my favorite crazy moment. I don't know if it's my favorite kill though, or my favorite kill would be his. Where like, yeah, hey Ted, where's the corkscrew? It might be. I'm kind of partial to when Paul gets like his head smashed into the bathroom wall by just having Jason just like smash his head in, and that's it. He's dead. Like, that was funny. Or like one of the twins like being launched out of the window. Here's the thing.
That's a pretty good one too. Jason throwing out a window.
There's a lot of people falling out of windows in this movie. Actually, I shouldn't say people, because the fucking dog falls out of a window in this movie.
he jumps out of the window and there's a slow-mo shot of it.
Yeah. The dog actively kills itself before it wants to deal with Jason.
A dog doesn't die though. It's still alive.
Is it? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive.
Maybe the dog is still alive, but like the fucking dog jumps is the point. There's a lot of breaking out of windows and jumping in this movie. It happens more than once, which is really funny.
Because even main girl falls out of a window and lives, which Jason sees happen. Like, oh, she's still breathing. I gotta deal with that. Hang on.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this movie takes place immediately after part 3.
When there's like the one character who's like waiting, trying to find Jason after he killed his sister all those years ago, and by all those years ago, I mean like a week ago.
So that's the interesting thing. So what's his name? Like Dyer, like explicitly says my sister Sandra. And I'm like, Sandra, the fucking camp counselor from the second movie, like. Is that what that was trying to be? Like, was that the Sandra he was talking about?
Yes. It was their attempt at more continuity.
Right, but that's just such a random character to bring up, is Sandra was my sister. Like,
they had to pick a girl that died in one of the other movies, and that's the one they landed on.
Couldn't they have picked one from the first movie? Like,
well, they already know who did it in the first movie. It was Pamela. He's looking for Jason.
Okay, so he's looking for Jason. I don't know. Yeah, no matter what, it does not make any sense, is the thing. Like, it's just such a random character to associate with. Like, my sister, Sandra. It's like, oh yeah, her.
They just picked a name they remembered.
Yeah, I guess so. They couldn't have gone with Ginny or Chris.
No, because Ginny's still alive.
Right, but like revenge for Ginny. I don't know. I didn't write this movie.
How do you feel about Banana Lady?
I love Banana Lady. Like, so first of all, she's
Canada for love. No, fuck you.
She has it written already, so she's used to being denied.
She's done this.
There is a story behind that character. This is the herald of this movie. Is like there's a story. There's a person to this person, and then she just dies.
Like, she wants to go to Canada. She already has it written in the back, so she's done this several times, and then she chokes on a banana.
And then she chokes on a banana. It's like, well,
because Jason just decided to stab her.
Yeah, exactly. It's again, it's like I said, the herald of this movie. Like, the movie takes the time to have this character in this scene and gives them a little bit pinch of personality to. It's just so entertaining to think about. Like, just thinking of the fact that she's done this before, that she wrote "fuck you" on the back of her sign so then she can stick it to the people that don't pick her up.
And that's how you know these movies take place in New Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Also, Corey Feldman's first scene is him wearing an alien mask. Like,
so, okay, Tommy Jarvis at this point was actually...
Let's talk about Tommy, yeah.
He is based on Tom Savini.
I was gonna say that because the character's name is Tom, and there's a scene where he's like showing off cool special effects, and it clicked in my head immediately. I'm like, oh, I see.
In fact, many of the masks that he quote-unquote makes in the movies, those are just masks that Tom Savini had just lying around. Those are just Tom Savini masks.
Yeah.
Tommy Jarvis is a stand-in for Tom Savini.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that they knew exactly what they were doing.
Which is kind of cute and fun.
Oh yeah, very much so.
It's like, oh, it's a little Tom Savini. That's nice.
Yeah.
And then Tom Savini came back because he wanted to be able to kill off Jason. So he has his character be the one to kill off Jason.
Even better. Yeah, that's even cooler when you think about it that way. Yeah.
I have to quickly, run real quick. I should be back soon.
Okay.
It keeps happening.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
A record star, he don't eat beef.
I got the high score in Zaxxon.
Well, speaking
of random game to name.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tommy, can we talk about his reaction to seeing people having sex?
Yeah, I mean, that's just what a little boy would do in that situation.
But it's such a funny moment.
Because he's overacting.
He's overacting. He sees a girl like stripping and just being like, "What?" He's just like flipping the fuck out in bed, and then his mom walks in and he's just like, I'm sleeping. And then the mom has a weird non-reaction to seeing the teenagers making out. She's just like, oh geez, and then she walks away. it's just such a weird scene that I kind of love.
She closes the blinds.
Well,
too.
does she close the blinds in the actual window, or was that a different window?
I think it was supposed to be the window.
Because like
it's just a weird shot.
Yeah, but then Tommy still like looks out.
I think he was just disappointed at that point. That's why I took it as.
Yeah.
Like, rats.
Rats. No more sex.
None for me. I'm kosher or something.
Or something. Yeah. Yeah. No. Tommy. What a fascinating character Tommy is. Yeah. So not only is he a stand-in for Tom Savini, but and he also does kill off Jason. He does so in like a way that I can't believe I'm saying this is even weirder than the sweater scene from the second movie. Like,
I mean, the effect of Jason falling down, the machete sliding is really cool. But
that's
then,
cool.
To finish it off, it's just I'm gonna repeatedly hit you now with the belt.
Yeah, well, I'm talking
about... It's the machete, but it looks like a belt.
But I'm talking about the fact that he shaves his head and is just like, remember me? I'm you? Like, it's...
Yeah.
What?
I'm going to become Jason to kill Jason.
And it's just so funny how he's just like, Trish, keep him occupied while I shave my head.
Hey, the mom asked him earlier in the movie to get a haircut. He did it.
Oh, okay, so maybe that's what it was calling back to.
I think it's just irony.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, he's doing it because... it's just a mentality of I have to become the killer to kill the killer.
Yeah, I guess.
And they do, even though it's the last movie, there's like that awkward cliffhanger of setting up Tommy as a potential killer later on.
Well, yeah, so they pull a Halloween 4 where like you think, oh, is little Jamie gonna be the next Michael Myers? No, she was just possessed. So I'm curious to see where Friday the 13th Part 5 goes with this cliffhanger.
They do try with it.
Okay, so they try more than Halloween 5.
Try.
Okay, they do try.
It's just that no one likes it, so they backtrack.
Oh, I'm very curious to see where this goes. But yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the idea was supposed to be,
and
it's awkward. I get what they're going for, though.
Right, of course.
But yeah, Friday the 13th Part 3 was where Jason gets a hockey mask and he becomes a Jason you know. Part 4, I feel, is really where, even though it's the final chapter, is where the series becomes what you think it is.
Oh yeah, definitely, because
this is where the sex comes in. This is where we're nude all the time. This is where we're focusing on Jason killing people.
Oh yeah, I made it a point to write down that there is a pointless skinny dipping scene in this movie. Like, why?
No, it's not pointless. It sets up the fact that Crispin Glover is awkward.
But I got that from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, but it's fun. I just like the whole thing where it's like they see everyone taking the clothes off. It's like, come on, join us. Oh, gosh darn it. We don't have suits. And Ted just looks like, what the fuck are you talking about?
The fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Ted, man. What a character Ted is. Like,
you gotta check out the old computer. He's just, for most of the movie, he's just, like, smoking a joint and watching that ancient porno, it's really funny how often the movie cuts back to him and he's still watching it, like, when he's alive, obviously before he dies. But, like, I feel like there's a good chunk of the movie where it just cuts back to him and he's still watching it. Like, it's just so funny. And to clarify for people in the audience, when he just said they're ancient porno, he is watching. At one point in the movie, they are watching a silent film reel of a naked Viking lady from the 1920s.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're just having a rip-roaring time of it.
Yeah, exactly. They're just watching it. They're laughing.
Mostly Ted, though. He just can't get enough of that.
I mean, because he doesn't get any of that in the movie, is the thing. So he has to resort to the porno.
Yeah. Well, Crispin Glover definitely doesn't get anything.
No, he
couldn't even get the corkscrew.
He couldn't get the corkscrew. Yeah, so that's when he dies. Is like Jason stabs his hand with the corkscrew, and he gets a machete to the face, a la the Mark scene in the second movie. But that's a cool death. I'll
actually no wait, I'm wrong. He does get the corkscrew because that's what Jason uses to stab his hand in the first place.
Right, exactly.
Hey Ted, where's the corkscrew? Here.
He found it. Oh, but he's dead. He can't drink the wine anymore.
Well, now his wine's pouring out of his veins.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, poor Crispin.
The mind and body of Crispin.
Yeah.
Drink this in remembrance of him.
Dance like him too.
Yeah, mostly dancing. You pull up to the church Christmas social with those moves.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually funny that you say like be unto him, because then Crispin gets crucified.
Yeah, well, he literally gets crucified in the doorway.
That's so funny.
That's so, like, in the first movie, Pamela just kind of left the bodies where they were when they died, right?
Yeah, basically.
Jason fucking taunts everybody. He moves the bodies and puts them in funny locations for them to find later to scare the shit out of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jason has a bit more creativity than his mother.
Well, I mean, he had 35 years in the woods to think of those ideas.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, if we want to, is there like any other specific scenes you want to talk about with this movie?
I mean, we completely ignored the beginning of the movie.
Well, the beginning is
in the morgue.
Okay, in the morgue.
With the fucking weirdo doctor
Axel
watching the aerobics video, jacking off.
Yeah, trying to get with the lady nurse, and she
trying to sleep on Jason's corpse.
Yeah.
That's why, you know what? I'm going to chalk that up to why Jason has a thing against teenagers having sex, because when he was in the morgue, they tried to have sex on top of him, and he was not having any of it.
No, even when he tries to grab the lady's skirt.
It's like, get off me. Yeah, you're dead now.
Yeah. You fuckers. Like, absolutely.
But yeah, he wakes up in the morgue after the last movie. He's already wearing the mask, so that's the iconic thing now, and he's off to the races.
Off to the races. And by races, we mean killing all the teenagers.
Another fun fact I have about with Jason and Tommy with the actors. Jason's movie is played by a man named Ted White. And apparently, Ted did not like Corey Feldman in real life, which helped him in the scenes chasing Tommy around the house. Because he was actually trying to get him.
Why?
I'm gonna fucking get you.
I need to know why he had beef with a kid.
I think he just thought he was an annoying kid or something.
Okay.
But it's just so funny.
No, that is the funniest thing. Like, he has beef with Corey Feldman.
So it's like, well, I'm gonna fucking chase after this kid now for real.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, Corey Feldman has a very punchable face. Like, that's why he's like he is kind of a smarmy dickhead in The Goonies. That's his character, and he plays it well. A little too well, but I get it. That is so funny, though.
I also have a quote here from Ted White, and this is a really fun anecdote and story.
Please
it doesn't
do.
have to do with Corey, though.
Still.
Right after I finished Final Chapter, I went on to do Starman with Jeff Bridges. I played the hunter at the roadside dinner who gets in a fight with him. And we were down in Mississippi late one night, and the local newspapers were interviewing Jeff. Then the director called him off to do a shoot. And so Jeff said, talk to Ted. He just finished the show. And they turned to me and asked, what did you do, Ted? I said, I did a little nothing picture. And they went, well, what was the name of it? And I said, Friday the 13th. I was Jason. Well, the next night we came out to finish shooting. And they must have put that in the paper because all of a sudden there are tons of cars just jammed all around the location. Jeff said, Jesus Christ, you're going to have a sore hand before the night's over with, buddy. Because there were all these kids just lined up to come and get my autograph. I had no idea when I did the role how many young people loved Friday the 13th and that they were even allowed to watch something like that. When Jeff Bridges turns to you and said, damn, you're going to have a sore hand there, buddy.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's pretty based. That's amazing. Oh, I love shit like that where the actor's just like, it's just nothing picture, Friday the 13th. And then he's like, oh no,
and then
I
the
was
next
wrong.
night.
That is so funny.
In the fact that it was Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges.
Who established well-beloved actual celebrity Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, part of the Bridges dynasty in Hollywood. Yeah.
And Starman's a John Carpenter movie, so we can connect that further.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's in the collection somewhere.
because that's the one that Scream Factory put down on Blu-ray, but it's not a horror movie. It's only in Scream Factory because it's John Carpenter.
Right, yeah, no. I would imagine people just assume it's horror because it's Carpenter, but it's like, guys, he did other things.
No, it has no. It doesn't.
He did other things like Starman and Dark Star, the movie that Alejandro Jodorowsky saw and was just like, hey, I want him to work on my Dune movie. True
That's
story.
funny.
True story. Yeah, that is absolutely a true story. It's amazing. Please watch Jodorowsky's Dune.
But yeah. So that's that fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just Ted White just had it out for Corey Feldman, which is hilarious.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
But yeah, this is really where the series became what we know it as today, even though it was supposed to end. And then it made a shit ton of money. So they bankrolled a fifth one. And called it A New Beginning.
Oh, that's how they get away with it. Okay.
If Jason still haunts you, you're not alone.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about here with this one? Because there's gotta be something.
Well, did we did already mention the stats with it?
I touched on them very quickly at the beginning, yeah.
Okay, then yeah. Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything much to say other than I'm gonna be honest, I think it's the weakest for me thus far because, like, I don't know, the funny moments just don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of the Crispin Glover dance scene, absolutely so. But like, I feel like the other movies had a more diverse variety of hilarious, goofy scenes, whereas I feel like this movie does have its moments, but they're not as often as the other ones, and so like the slow scenes do start to feel more apparent in this one. Now, with that said, I still like a lot of the kills and a lot of the tension that's being built up. I just would say so far this is probably my least favorite.
So far I put this one at number 2 just because it is like, this is really where it becomes what it is.
Yeah, no.
It's the most familiar.
Yeah.
So that's where I go. I like it more. I think 3, has like some more pacing issues that kept it down a little more for me.
Oh yeah, 3 has a worse ending. I'll agree to that. I feel like the ending in this one is better than the last one.
Yeah. Like, so far the way I have it is 2, 4, 3, 1.
Yeah, I would probably go 2, 1, 3, 4. But even then, like, I still gave them all the same score.
They're not that far from each other.
No,
honestly.
definitely not. This is not like Exorcists 1 and 3 and then 2, and like the gap between 3 and 2 is like astronomically large. Like, yeah, no, like these movies are all kind of similar. Like, when I say I rank these, like, these are very loose rankings, I would say. Like,
yeah.
I could be argued into believing any number of these as being better than the other ones. I'm just at the moment, that's what I would say thus far.
Yeah. And like, you gotta figure like these movies, they're not very deep, they're just fun.
Exactly. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into when I'm watching all these movies. Like, once, like, again, like years ago, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I was like confused. But now that I know, I'm starting to figure it out a little more. So like, I know what I'm getting into with these Friday the 13th movies. Like, I'm not expecting high quality horror art, but I'm not getting like awful schlock either that would show up on like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
It would show up on Joe Bob's Drive-In Monster Madness.
If anything. Yeah.
But also Joe Bob is celebrating it, so you know.
Right, exactly. But it is interesting to see this series finally, because it has been hyped up as like this iconic series, and I'm like watching it and I'm like, yeah, it's good, but like, as we were saying, like, it is a victim of its popularity. Like, it's
because I feel like a lot of people just know of it from its reputation without actually watching the majority of the movies, or they'll only watch 1 or 2 of them, and they'll assume that the whole franchise is just like that. And they're not in that wrong, but they're not right either.
Right, exactly.
Like, there's like, you watch part 1 and then you watch part 8, and those are 2 different movies.
Yes. I mean, yeah, like, I'm not there yet, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, and it's because people just assume that because the genre is like this, and because Friday the 13th is the poster boy of the genre, that Friday the 13th is like the rest of the genre. That's not true, because what you know of the genre today is only after the genre existed for like 15, 20 years.
Right, exactly.
Friday the 13th is an acquired taste.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And it's an acquired taste I'm having a lot of fun with so far. Like, I'm very curious to see where these movies go from here on out. And from what I've seen, I like them so far. Like, I would not say they're my favorite horror movies. Like when I think of my favorite horror movies, like Friday the 13th would not even come into like the top 10. Like, thus far, I would say I still prefer like the first Halloween compared to any of these Friday the 13th movies thus far. But like, I'm still having a good time regardless. Like, I'm very curious to see where it goes, and I've had a fun time thus far. Honestly, I could see all 4 of these again sometime. Like, I think they're fun, schlocky movies. Like, I was sort of riffing on them at times. It's like, that would be a lot of fun to like riff on them, is like, because like, there's just so many goofy moments, you know?
They're McDonald's. They're not the high art. They're not the greatest things ever. But sometimes it's just what you want to watch. It's a comfort movie. You can just put it on the background and not have to think about it.
That is such a good way of putting it. It is the McDonald's of horror.
Which again, they make that point in the book here. That's what people are saying.
Yeah.
I think I can find the quote real quick. Let me see. Friday the 13th is sort of like McDonald's now, isn't it? Betsy Palmer.
Yeah. Pamela Voorhees herself. So, yeah. I don't know if there anything else we want to say last minute before we wrap up, sort of, you know?
I mean, we're not really wrapping up because we're coming back in like a week for the next one.
Yeah, which is why I'm not going to like end this like any normal episode, because you're just going to be back. So like we can just say like be on the lookout for part 2.
Part 2, where we talk about part 5, 6, 7, and 8, the second half of the Paramount films.
Yeah.
And also is where we get into the zombie Jason arc of the series, which is the Jason everyone is actually familiar with.
Yeah, exactly.
This is when we're getting into the iconic Jason of the unstoppable killer who never really runs anywhere, but he'll find you anyway. This is where we get to the Jason who can take a shotgun blast to the chest and just keep fucking walking.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm very much looking forward to part 2. But hey, that's part 1 for you folks. Thanks for listening. And William, anything last minute to say before we stop recording?
I haven't been held by a woman in several years.
See you guys in part 2. Just